Greetings, dear listeners, and welcome to Sci-Frights, the film discussion podcast from the interzone where horror meets science fiction. My name is Liam Dunn, and I am a screenwriter, film critic, and lifelong science fiction fan.
My name is Dr. Lindsay Hallam, and I am the course leader of the Film and Screen Studies degree at the University of the Arts London, who specialises in horror cinema.
And we are, in fact, partners both in life and in crime, and are die-hard film fanatics.
Today we begin a new season called Director Double Bills. In each episode we will focus on a filmmaker and explore two of their films, one horror and one science fiction. In some cases, like today, we will discuss a filmmaker who has worked extensively across both genres, while in other episodes we will look at a director who's only worked in these genres once or twice. So Liam, who is first up and what films will we be discussing?
We are starting with the big one, JC himself. No, not Jesus Christ, but close. John Carpenter. We will explore his impact on horror and science fiction and go deep into two of his greatest works, the 1981 dystopian classic Escape from New York, followed by the film I think we can all agree is his masterpiece, 1982's The Thing.
And just a reminder to everyone, we are going to spoil the hell out of these films. So if you haven't seen these films yet, please go and watch them and then listen to this episode.
And today we are joined by a very special guest and a returning guest. The first one that we ever had on this show, coming back for a victory lap. It's film critic and my gateway to John Carpenter, Travis Johnson.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. What are we doing?
Oh, this is like a film podcast.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's always great to be back with Lionel and Lisa, two of my closest friends from back in the day. It's great to see you both. I am really excited to be here. Thanks for having me back, sincerely. We three have a lot of history with John Carpenter. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is our guy.
Yeah,
he has
very
brought
much
us
so.
together in strange and groovy ways, and I'm really looking forward to digging into two of my favorites of his films.
Yeah.
One of them's actually, they're probably my two faves. Like, it's fucking tough because if you name a favorite John Carpenter, then like someone's going to turn around and go about, well, what about Prince of Darkness? Or what about They Live? Or what about, I mean, you're going to get pushback from Halloween freaks just because you said that The Thing's his masterpiece. And I agree with you. I think The Thing's a better film than Halloween. But Halloween's a more influential film than The Thing. So, you know.
For sure.
But we all love John Carpenter. I'm sure everyone listening to this loves John Carpenter. If you don't, like, fucking talk to a priest or something because, like, something's gone wrong with your life. But talk to the priest in Prince of Darkness.
He's just a salesman.
Or talk to Mark Hamill in the underrated Village
of the Damned, which I actually watched the other day. I'd never seen it before. It's like one of those ones that I had to tick off the list.
It's a fucking banger. Like, it's real. Like, it's that late period, not enough money to do what he wants kind of John Carpenter. But there's a lot of cool shit going on in that film.
And I think with everybody saying, having a different favorite, because if you think about, because Lindsay and I were saying about in the 80s, especially from The Fog through to They Live, it's just every film fucking rules. Like, he's just, what a run. It's like, what is it? 8-film run?
No, I think it's an 11-film run.
Yeah.
You've got Assault on Precinct 13, 76.
Yeah.
Halloween, 78. The Fog, 80. Escape from New York, 81. The Thing, 82. Christine, 83. Starman, 84. Big Trouble in Little China, 86. Prince of Darkness, 87. They Live, 88. Okay, so that's 10, is it?
10.
Yes.
That's
then
10,
Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Dark Star on the beginning, so that gives us 11 because Dark Star's great for a student film.
Yes, true.
And if you ignore Memoirs of an Invisible Man, as everyone should, it just keeps going and going and going.
I mean, after that is In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah.
Then Village of the Damned, which I'm like, I don't mind it, but I don't know. I wasn't completely into it. Escape from LA, which is flawed.
Escape from LA is fucking aged like fine wine. Like, that is so much better than contemporary reviews might indicate. Like, it is not as gritty as New York, but the satire is like scarily prescient, like getting close to Verhoeven levels of like on point.
Yeah. There's some pretty interesting stuff in there.
And then after that is vampires, which I am not a fan of. I do not like vampires.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan.
No.
And same with Ghosts of Mars. I think that it's just unsalvageable. And The Ward could have been directed by anyone. And I think that's the most damning thing you can say about the John Carpenter film. Like even the worst of these other films, it's like, yeah, but that's John Carpenter, man. Like you can hear his voice in that.
Yeah,
and The
exactly.
Ward is just like, this is just the post-Scream new sort of slasher boom thing, you know, like it's up there with, like, I don't know, what the fuck was that thing that Jamie Blanks did? Urban Legends, right? It's like, oh yeah, it's fine. You know, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But everything else he ever did, I love.
Yeah, absolutely.
And ride or die.
And then also his TV work. Like I was just looking over his TV work. So Someone's Watching Me, which comes out the same year as Halloween, which I just recently watched for the first time. Really, really good. I mean, obviously, because it's made for TV, it can't go really hard. But actually, it's an excellent kind of exploration of a woman being terrorized. And it's not someone, you know, kind of violently assaulting her. He's just watching her and sending her gifts and things. And it's the whole thing of like, the police are like, well, we can't do anything about it because he's not really doing anything. But it's like, it really just completely takes over her life. And I think it really is I think it's very, again, another one that's aged like fine wine.
Yeah.
I think there's even a line in Someone's Watching Me where it's actually a character played by Adrienne Barbeau. She says something about how in that the guy that's terrorizing her is her rapist. She just says, rapist is just someone who wants you to live in fear. And it's like, yeah, it sums it up really well. And so that was a really surprising one. I haven't seen the Elvis TV film. Have you?
I haven't seen it since I was a kid. Like, I saw it on TV, probably the year it came out. So I probably have like memories of when I was 3 or 4. It would have showed up on commercial television in Australia. And I do remember seeing Kurt Russell as Elvis. But I have no clear memories of it. I do have some of the stuff he's just written. So, like, Eyes of Laura Mars is really good. And Black Moon Rising is completely insane. With Tommy Lee Jones as a professional thief who basically steals the fucking car from Knight Rider.
Yeah, I've always wanted to see that. It seems such a strange one.
So Tommy Lee Jones is in Eyes of Laura Mars as well. So he's just weirdly showing up in his stuff he's written, but never.
And apparently Tommy Lee Jones was in the running for Snake Plissken originally, but the studio even wanted him.
And Charles Bronson was in the running as well. And a lot of your tough guy actors around that period, so like Clint, obviously, and a few others. But we got Kurt. We got former Disney star Kurt Russell in the role that made him, I think. I don't think you can argue against that. Like, this is the role that turned him from like teen idol to like tough motherfucker. And unfortunately, he started to believe his own press, which guys tend to do. And that's never great, but we love him anyway.
Yeah. So John Carpenter emerges in the 70s. And so we have this amazing wave of horror and horror filmmakers coming out in that decade. So John Carpenter is often considered alongside Wes Craven, Tobe Hooper, George Romero, David Cronenberg, Joe Dante. We could just start with, what is your history with John Carpenter? Where did it start for you, Travis?
That is a really good question. I think my first Carpo would have been Starman, because I was 8 when that came out, probably 9 when it hit VHS. And that's the sort of movie a parent at the time would just sort of fling at a kid around that age of, there you go, Jeff Bridges, he's an alien, you'll like it. I don't have to pay attention. Which is really, like, as a film, it is so outside his normal sort of mode and the stuff he deals with. And it's a beautiful film and I love it. And then I have clear memories of when I was 10, so 86. I grew up in a small country town. It was a shithole. It still is. And we would go to Perth on the school holidays, and I would hit the movies because we didn't have a cinema. So basically 2-3 times a year, I would get to the cinema and I would see like fucking everything I could fit in. And I would plan it like a military operation. So I would check the times and I would check where stuff was playing at different cinemas in Perth, and I would check the travel time by foot or by public transport in between, and just go So that's how I saw Big Trouble in Little China,
Mm.
which is famously a bomb, which still blows my mind because I remember seeing the ads on TV and going like, "What the fuck is this? I got to see this. This looks amazing." And it just kind of flows from there. But I do remember once, and I'm a bit fuzzy on the age, but at my grandparents' place in Collie, which is where I grew up, my uncle Bob was visiting. He lived in Albany, and he knew I was kind of into movies. And I have a very clear memory of him leaning against the mantelpiece over the wood stove in my grandparents' kitchen with a beer and a cigarette, telling me about Escape from New York, which I hadn't seen. And he basically broke down the plot for me. Because, it's kind of how normies talk about movies, where it's just like, this happens, this happens, this happens. But what he did underline is that there was no hero in this film. He basically said, yeah, so the president's plane crashes in New York City and it's a maximum security prison. So the cops send in this real bad guy. He's a real bad guy. And he kept underlining that. And I found that really intriguing because at that age, I didn't really grasp that you could have a protagonist who wasn't heroic, which I think we'll dig into when we talk about Escape. So, yeah, there's that. And, yeah, but from about 86 on, even though I may not have been consciously aware of, like, John Carpenter as a director, even though he slaps his fucking name on every movie he makes, but, you're a kid. You don't make those connections necessarily. Like, I was in the bag. And when I did sort of put together my ideas of how auteurship works, John Carpenter is pretty much my favorite director. Not necessarily because he's made the best movies of all time, because that's it's hard to gauge, right? But his sensibilities, his attitude, the stuff he talks about, and his sort of response to things like authority really speak to me on a really deep level. He is my guy. I fucking love him. How about you guys?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I watched Big Trouble in Little China a lot growing up, getting it out of the
That
video
was the one
store.
in our household.
My brother and I.
We were a Big Trouble in Little China household.
Yeah, for sure. And that, yeah, again, you don't know who John Carpenter is. You're just like this weird film. And then when you get older, you're like, did that film even happen? Like that just, it's such a weird thing to remember. Like that's such a weird film. And then you're like, oh no, it did actually happen. And I think, and then everybody has some, surly older man who stumbles into your life to recommend movies to you, as you did, Trav, and then you became that for me, because I think when we first got to know each other and you were showing me a lot of films because I was seeking out new films to watch, and you were the one who were like, oh, you like Big Trouble in Little China? Well, he also did this. And I think that's how I saw Escape from New York and The Thing, was through you. So, and that's when you start to connect the dots. And I think like my biggest discovery for him though was Prince of Darkness, I think, because that was one that I'd always heard about, and then was able to buy an ex-rental video at a sale, and finally watched that film and just couldn't believe that that film got made because it's just so wild and crazy and amazing.
Yeah, I was thinking about Prince of Darkness today because I know it's such a big film in your personal pantheon, and it sits like right at the crossroads of sci-fi and horror.
Yeah.
Much like The Thing does. Like, it's right there. Escape from New York's kind of an edge case. I think we just kind of snuck that in because we want to talk about it. But Prince of Darkness is like right there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's in that kind of Nigel Neal Quatermass kind of mode. I think even the name of the writer is Simon Quatermass, right? Quatermass, which is a pen name, I'm sure. But it's a very special film to me.
Growing up, we definitely Big Trouble in Little China, because I've mentioned before, my older brother even did Kung Fu and loved Kung Fu and Kung Fu films. And maybe I think possibly Big Trouble in Little China would have been a gateway into that. I think for a lot of us, that might have been something where we first kind of saw martial arts, and then also watching monkey magic on TV would have been probably another thing. And then we also really, really loved what was then the WWF, which is now WWE in our house as well. So I do remember They Live being on, because obviously Roddy Piper, who was a big wrestler at that time, was in that film. So we would have put that watched that film because he was in it. Having older siblings, there are lots of films that I probably was just there in the background, that as I've grown up, I've gone, oh God, that's that film. So I can't say when I first watched a lot of John Carpenter films. Possibly Starman would have been on in the background at some point, maybe. I'm pretty sure Escape from New York, that would have been something that my dad and my brother would have been into. So that I'm sure, I have vague recollections maybe of seeing that, certainly with him with his eye patch and all that. So obviously, as I got older, I got into the films, watched them a lot. But yeah, I have a feeling that throughout my childhood, a lot of his films were just there, but I didn't realize it at the time.
I just had another memory spark, which means the anti-aging drugs are working. And I watched They Live on VHS with my grandfather back in Collie, that same house, right? So we're in the lounge room this time. So we watched that, and I thought it was cool as shit. And I remember turning to my grandfather, who was in his mid-70s at the time, World War II veteran, very quiet dude. And I was a little kid. I was like 12, I think. And I'm like, wow, Granddad, wouldn't it be crazy if that happened? And he just deadpanned, it already has. And I was like, fuck, Granddad. He had his finger on the pulse, that old boy. He had the glasses.
Yeah.
Well, They Live is another film like Big Trouble in Little China and like Prince of Darkness, where you're like, did that even happen? Like when someone explains to you, like, well, you see, Roddy Piper plays this guy who gets some sunglasses that allows him to see that aliens are actually running the world, and I'm just like, you're fucking out of your mind. That's not a real movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, and it's great.
But then we grew up in the 80s where it was just a whole decade of really fucked up films that were aimed at us as children. Like, I always think of like Return to Oz is the big one. But even like Labyrinth or Dark Crystal, which was the first film I ever remember seeing. It may have been the first film I think that I ever saw at a cinema. So that was my my first film experience. So it explains a lot, I think.
I have a Dark Crystal story.
Okay.
It's a real good story. So
all right, we're going to veer into Dark Crystal, yeah.
All right, just quickly. This podcast is going to go for hours. When I was 6 years old, on one of those fabled trips to Perth, my mother took me to see The Dark Crystal in the cinema. And it scared the living piss out of me. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you remember at the end of The Dark Crystal, Kira, the little girlfriend girl, gets fucking stabbed and dies. And I was distraught. And then they bring her back to life. And that didn't really help because that's a scary fucking movie for a 6-year-old, right? And I have a distinct memory of walking out of Cinema City, down the Cinema City arcade, and I'm holding on to my mum's hand. And I had this vague idea about ratings. And I said, Mum, that was pretty scary for a G-rated film. And she said, yeah, that one's kind of for older kids. Let's go and see something else.
Oh, no.
So she took me into E.T.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
You may recall at the end of E.T., E.T.
God.
fucking dies. Bring him back. So that was the day I lost all my innocence. I started believing in Jesus. Because I don't know if you've read the Bible, but at the end, they killed him.
When I saw Dark Crystal, I think I was so young that I didn't even process. Because I remember saying to my mum, why did you take me to see this? And she was like, oh, yeah, you were fine. I think there was just a bit where the dog kind of jumped out and barked, and I went, oh, that scared me. But all the really dark existential stuff, I think, went right over my 3-year-old head.
Yeah, people always worry about showing kids like violent movies or scary movies, and I think you sort of judge by a case-by-case basis because you can't really tell what's going to like freak a kid out, and it's almost never the stuff you expect.
Yeah. Well, it's like Patton Oswalt has that great little bit about his kid accidentally watching the Benicio del Toro Wolfman on TV, and he's like trying to get her, but like he puts on a thing of like a kid show of skeletons, and she's absolutely terrified of that. He's like, what? And then he flips it over to the Wolfman, and she's like, that doggy's wearing a shirt.
This is quite on point. I was going to bring it up. He's got a great routine about showing his kid Halloween for the first time. And it's not fair that she is like completely unfazed by the movie, which made him piss his pants at the same time.
Yeah. But let's get back to John Carpenter. So you mentioned before that, yeah, this idea of John Carpenter being this auteur. Are there certain themes or things that he seems to be kind of obsessed with that he keeps coming back to that you saw in his, that you think is there in his films?
Well, he doesn't like authority.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's kind of got like oppositional defiant disorder, and I feel him. Like there is a deep mistrust of authority and authority figures running like right through all these films. Like his heroes are never the guys in charge; they're the outsiders. They're the guys who kind of get handed the bag of shit and have to deal with it, and that recurs over and over and over again. Even in Assault in Precinct 13, where the main hero is ostensibly a cop, but he's basically been left to, lock the doors on this precinct, which is getting shut down. Like he's getting handed a crap job. And then when all hell breaks loose, he's got to deal with it. That keeps coming up over and over again. He's a very masculine filmmaker. Like he's a guy's filmmaker. I mean, we can talk about Laurie Strode as the first and greatest final girl. And that's true. But if you look at his body of work, like, he writes about men in that sort of Howard Hawksian way. And like Hawks, he likes guys who are just good at their job. He likes guys who are defined by their job. He's big on professionalism. What else? What else you guys got? Oh, cosmic horror, existentialism. I think that's a big part of his stuff. Like, God rarely factors into his work, if at all. And when it does, it's often as a symbol to be mistrusted. That's sort of where I come at Carpenter from.
Well, his two main priest characters are Hal Holbrook in The Fog and Donald Pleasance in Prince of Darkness, and they're both kind of corrupted, and because they're both hiding secrets, right? That these terrible secrets, and they're gatekeeping these horrors.
And at minimum, they're compromised. Like the best you can say about them is they're compromised.
Compromised, yeah. But I agree about these outsider figures. Like they're all, I think even we'll talk about The Thing later, but with MacReady, like I think in the short story, MacReady's like the second in charge of the whole thing. And in the film, he's like, no, he's the helicopter pilot who lives in the shack. He's not even in the facility. Yeah, and so these characters who are kind of brought in to solve these problems, who are these capable men usually, who kind of like are kind of shoved into a situation, but they're also the perfect person for that situation, it turns out. And he's also got this sense of these communities being threatened by outside forces. Like they're always something from outside trying to get in, aren't they? And then, especially in the case of The Thing, there's something that gets in and is fighting its way out. But I think in Escape from New York, it's kind of Pliskin is the outsider, but also kind of the invading force as well, going into this community of people.
I was reading, because I've been reading a lot and we're watching documentaries and things about him. And it's interesting that he is the son of a university professor, and his father was also a musician. I think he actually taught music. That's what he had his PhD in. I think he was born in California, but then at quite a young age, they moved to Kentucky. And he talks about like that this was a bit of a culture shock, that they're this, I guess, somewhat intellectual family. And this is like deep in the Jim Crow South. And he is really faced up against, and I mean, he's even talked about like the evil that he saw growing up. And he never really goes into details. So I have a feeling he's seen some, like, I'm assuming really abhorrent, hideous racism. And I don't know what he's seen, but he's talked about that. So this idea of really seeing, I guess, the evils of society and the authority, because like segregation that was happening at the time, that was how society was built up. Yeah, he also talked about that he was, bullied because he was musical. And he said, he'd show up to school with his violin, and it's like, that's a target for, if ever there was.
Yeah, I did piano lessons, and I got my ass handed to me on a regular basis.
And then as he gets older, he gets into rock and roll. And so he's also, I think, kind of a bit hippie-ish, bit in the counterculture, obviously a big stoner. But then he's also sometimes, I think, a bit cynical about countercultures as well. I think it really is just he's not a joiner. I think it seems like it seems like he is always like the kind of man standing alone.
I think of him as like a small L libertarian. I described him as that recently. Like by his own admission, his sort of political framework doesn't make sense. Like it's contradictory. But I think he cares about people. I think that's quite apparent. But he's got a massive distrust of authority, but he also doesn't trust people to kind of stay in line either. But the other theme we should have brought up, and I'm glad I remembered it, which recurs again and again and again in his films, is evil as a tangible outside force. He doesn't think that capital E evil comes from within. He thinks it exists outside of us. So you see it in The Thing, definitely, The Shape in Halloween, Michael Myers. Prince of Darkness is like, that's his fucking thesis on the entire theme, right? So that comes up over and over again. Not so much in Escape from New York. Like, I think that doesn't fit into that framework. But in a lot of his other work, like, that theme is very strongly stated.
Yeah, very much so.
And I guess also the apocalypse, the end of everything, which is the logical endpoint of his kind of cynicism about kind of human society and relations. And he even says, like, with The Thing is a film made with no hope, which I guess is it can be a really hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. That he doesn't shy away from, like, sometimes, like, maybe it's just all bad.
Mm-hmm. But that's what, like, made me love The Thing. And I don't remember the first time I saw it, but I do remember my reaction because, like, it's a great film. It's a roller coaster ride. The tension's through the roof. The special effects are amazing. It's scary as shit. And then you get to that ending and the credits roll and you're like, holy fuck. Like that. Wow. Haven't seen that before.
Yeah, it's like movies can do this. Like, you can just end like that and not have any.
And I kind of get frustrated when people, like, get into that, is Childs the thing, or is McCready the thing, or are they both human? And it's like, you're missing the forest for the trees, motherfucker. Like, that's not important. The important thing is, like, these guys are fucked.
And I think, we'll get into with Escape from New York. That also kind of has the ending where it's like, yeah, we're all going to be fucked from here. And of course, he has an apocalypse trilogy, which is The Thing, Prince of Darkness, In the Mouth of Madness. So he often will have these completely apocalyptic endings of, that's it. Game over. All right. Well, moving on. I guess another aspect that we need to talk about with John Carpenter is that not only does he usually, not always, write and he directs, he is a composer and edits, but he's also known for his music, his scores. And that's something that, again, unites us all. We have our own experience of seeing him live. But yeah, let's just talk about John Carpenter's music.
Well, he's responsible for the current sort of, electro thing which is happening with outfits like Gunship and Carpenter Brute. Like, it's right there in the name, right? They got a new album out this week and it's fucking amazing. But he started doing it, I think, was it Halloween, where it was just cheaper for him to do it? Like, I think he did the score on Precinct 13. I'm not 100. Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
because we heard him play it. Because me and Liam were rocking the fuck out. It's great. But it's sort of Halloween where I think the score is so effective and audiences reacted to that score and reviews were saying, like, Jesus Christ, the music in this is incredible, that he sort of went, this is a thing I'm going to do. And his sort of, keyboard heavy, synth heavy, minimalist, repetitive, driving kind of style of music is instantly recognizable, to the point where if anyone else does it, you don't go, oh, that's this genre. You go, oh, you're doing John Carpenter. Like, that's how distinctive his music is. It's like, it is signature. It is iconic as hell.
And sort of in interviews, he was saying, like, oh, I just want music. It's just like carpet. It's just there. You shouldn't notice it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, we notice it because it's so fucking good.
Yeah, why are they all bangers then? Why are we humming them all the time?
Like, we were talking yesterday because, like, I watched Escape from New York and Escape from LA back to back for this. And then Liam in chat, you were like, I've got the theme stuck in my head. And I'm like, me too. I've got a playlist on Spotify just called "Walking Around Feeling Cool," and fully 70% of it's just like John Carpenter shit.
You talk about people copying the Carpenter style. It's funny that, like in The Thing, Ennio Morricone does the music, and he did a bunch of stuff, and Carpenter wasn't into it, and he's just played him some of the stuff that he'd done for his other movies, and he's like a bit like that. And Ennio Morricone walks away, comes back with like, "Here you go, I'm going to do something that sounds exactly like you," and it's like, and it's almost indistinguishable from Carpenter's work. It's incredible.
And as distinctive as Morricone normally is, if you didn't know, if you like weren't paying attention to the opening credits, you could think that Carpo did the score to The Thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is, I think, a tribute to both artists.
Absolutely.
And not a slam on either, because I love them both.
Yeah.
And so, Trav, do you want to just talk about seeing him live and how that all happened?
Holy shit.
10 years ago now.
10 years ago.
Yeah, it's going to be 10 years ago.
In November.
On Halloween.
Yes.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
October 31st. It was 2016. I had booked tickets about 18 months out. Like, we found out that John Carpenter was playing live in London. Liam and Lindsay were living in London at the time. I saw it and I just went, I'm buying tickets. I'll figure out how to get there later. Normally that works for me. I'm lucky that way. So there was my housemate Sean was going to come. He didn't wind up coming. So we went, who did we give that ticket to?
Ian.
Ian,
Our
that's
friend
right.
Ian, who's living in London too.
Yep. My girlfriend Nat, who's no longer with us, was with us as well. I managed to tee up a little sort of freelance work while I was over there, mainly so I could claim the trip on tax, which is a good trick if you're a jobbing film critic, folks. Every holiday should be a work trip. Pay no attention, tax department. And before we went, one of those jobs is I had to interview a director at his local pub in South London. It was John Michael McDonough.
Yeah.
The director of The Guard and Calvary.
Yeah.
So we all piled into this pub. I think it was the Red Lion in South London. And you guys are all sitting at a table together while I talked to this dude who turned out to be a real cool motherfucker. Like, just an awesome guy, really good hang. And we hit that point, which sometimes happens if you're doing an interview with someone who's cool and you're kind of vibing, where you've just run over time and you're just talking about movies. You're just talking about, oh, this is cool, that's cool, do you like this, blah, blah, blah. And I sort of realized, and I was like, look, man, like, we're all going to see John Carpenter tonight. That's my people over there. I should go and join them. Do you want to come and hang out with us? And he's like, oh, look, my wife's coming down. I'll see what she wants to do. And I was like, yeah, no worries, man. Like, come and see us. So I came over, spoke to you guys, and his wife came down, and they came over and hung out with us. And as it turned out, his wife is from fucking Geraldton in Western Australia. And we, of course, are all from Western Australia. So we got fucking Perthed again. They were cool as hell.
Yeah.
I've still got their contact details somewhere. And then we went to see John Carpenter. It was amazing. It was just incredible. I do remember, and it was during Precinct 13, that Nat went up to the bar, because at the back of the venue, that's where the bar was.
Yeah.
And she was waiting in line, and she turned around, and there's basically an ocean of people sitting there kind of reverently, like listening to Carpenter.
I mean, that's British audiences.
Yeah.
They can be very subdued.
And me and Liam with our arms around each other, like pumping our fists, like, fuck yeah, get it, Carpo, this shit, oh my God, I'm so happy.
And I think it was also the In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah, when that guitar solo comes in.
Yeah, you were also rocking out to that, I remember.
Oh, so good.
That was one of the all-time great evenings.
Yeah.
Oh, that was an all-timer. I had such a good time. And we also all saw Ennio Morricone together, you may recall,
Yes, we did.
when he played at the Perth Festival. So we're pretty good for iconic film composers.
Yeah. Although the Morricone one was when there was a venue change and they
split us
fucked
all
up.
up.
Yeah, they refunded all the tickets. There was a venue change, and they just refunded tickets instead of transferring them over, but we didn't get a heads up.
Yeah.
So when we realized, A, we all had to pay like way more than we had before, and B, we all had to sit separately. Like, it was pretty much sold out. So I wound up sitting next to some middle-aged personality, you know, who got to watch me, you know, cry and neck whiskey out of a hip flask for the entire opposite. But it was great because he did most of the mission, which is his best work.
Yeah.
He didn't play The Thing, though. He didn't play anything from The Thing, which is not surprising.
He did not.
No.
He did not.
All right. Shall we get into our first film? We're talking about Escape from New York.
Yes.
1988. The crime rate in the United States rises 400%. 1991. The United States Police Force is formed. 1997. New York City is a walled maximum security prison. John Carpenter's Escape from New York. Kurt Russell. Lee Van Cleef. Ernest Borgnine. Donald Pleasance. Isaac Hayes. Susan Hughley. Harry Dean Stanton as Brain. And Adrienne Barbeau as Maggie. John Carpenter's Escape from New York. The ultimate adventure of escape and survival.
First, I want to read the tagline because I love it. 1997, New York City is now a maximum security prison. Breaking out is impossible. Breaking in is insane. So, as the tagline suggests, it's the not too distant future of 1997, and Manhattan
Remember
Island
when
has...
that was the not too distant future, like Terminator 1997, Escape from New York. I think Predator 2 is set in 1997.
Yeah.
So 97 was like shorthand for like, just down the road a track.
And you know it's 1997 because everyone's pistol has a scope on it. So yes, it is the year 1997, and Manhattan Island has been walled off to create a supermax prison for the entire country, where criminals are incarcerated and create their own worlds amidst the ruins of what was once America's finest city. But when Air Force One is hijacked and crashes within the prison walls, the race is on to find the president, who is now missing. Enter Snake Plissken, Kurt Russell, former Black Ops commando, now notorious criminal who's abandoned his decorated career due to the injustices and hypocrisy of the corrupt government he once served. Sentenced to be interred in New York, he is instead press-ganged into rescuing the president, Donald Pleasance, and the nuclear secrets he carries in exchange for a full pardon. Injected with miniature bombs in his veins to ensure compliance, Snake enters New York on the president's trail, meeting and clashing with its various denizens, most notably the Duke of New York, Isaac Hayes, the self-proclaimed ruler of the city who has kidnapped El Presidente. Snake must team up with his old friend Brain, Harry Dean Stanton, and his partner Maggie, Adrienne Barbeau, and old-timer cabbie Ernest Borgnine in order to get the president and escape from New York before his head explodes. And of course he does, because he's Snake Plissken. But once his bargain has been fulfilled, he double-crosses the president and destroys the precious data that made the leader's life worth saving in a final fuck you to the country that betrayed him.
Yeah! Oh, everyone stop listening and go watch it now. We'll be here when we get back. So fucking good.
So you talked about when you first saw the film, you were told about the film by your uncle.
Yeah, and then I would have gotten it out on VHS like a couple weeks later, I guess.
What was your first impression? So you would have been like 8 years old.
8 to 10, I guess. Yeah, probably closer to 8. And you got to remember, we were kind of allowed to watch almost anything. All right? The VHS age was an age of wonders. Being a bicycle kid and being given the family like membership cards at the local video store was a pretty good combo. So
It was, as long as it wasn't rated R.
Yeah, pretty much. But I kind of got a few, like the guys at the store kind of got to know me. So like if I tried to get out Commando, that'd be okay. That was rated R. But like I never tried to get out porn or anything like that, or hardcore horror. I think that was kind of off the cards, but like an R-rated action movie like RoboCop, like who gives a shit? So that's why I am the way I am. And your kids could be the same way too, folks. Give it a shot. I was struck by the atmosphere most of all, and Kurt Russell's performance and how cynical the whole thing was. Like, even if I didn't consciously understand it, I just knew that this was like downbeat and mistrustful and just kind of very different to anything I'd watched up until that point. And it obviously left a mark because we're here talking about Carpenter like 42 years later. Damn, I'm old. But yeah, it's mainly the tone. When you get the opening voiceover by an uncredited Jamie Lee Curtis, even though Carpo has denied that it's her, it is clearly her. I watched it last night. It's so her. And you get the kind of the animated kind of map picture of New York, and the music kicks in, and the first thing you see is like guys on a raft getting fucking gunned down, and then the plane getting taken out, and someone screaming about striking a blow for the workers. So maybe that's why I'm a socialist. Maybe it's all Carpenter's fault. And then you meet your hero, who's like handcuffed and hates everyone and has an eye patch and is about to get either executed or thrown into New York, and is given a no choice by Bob Hawke, the great Lee Van Cleef. And it's like, as a kid, you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, I've never seen anything like this. This is amazing and scary and, unsettling. And it's okay when you're young to watch unsettling things. It helps you think about the world. But it really left a mark on me. How about you guys?
I mean, like I said before, I'm sure it was around and on the TV, or Stuart, my brother, or my dad would have rented it. But I cannot remember the first time I would have sat down and watched it like beginning to end. But I probably would have seen bits of it. That's the thing when you grow up and things are on TV. There are lots of films where you just would like see bits of it, and then maybe you would change the channel or you'd go back, and so you would have like just fragments
or something.
Yeah, or you'd fall asleep, or you'd have to go to bed or something. So I cannot remember the first time I would have seen it all. I'm sure my brother loved it, and so anything that my older brother liked, I was into because I just wanted to impress him. So I'm sure I liked it. And then as I got older, getting to films and things. I mean, when I was a teenager, I was also a bit of a wanker, so I was in more to the art house kind of stuff. So yeah, it's probably as I actually got into my 20s where I'm like, horror is my thing and sci-fi is my thing. Yeah, I watched it a bit more. What about you?
Well, I think the time I actually remember seeing it fully is when I think you threw the VHS at me and told me to go watch it. Like
probably literally.
Probably literally. I probably had to dodge out the way and then catch it in one hand quickly, like Jack Burton with a knife.
Sticks in the wall like a shuriken.
But I do remember the video cover, so like stalking the video stores as a kid and just seeing when I'd look at video covers and go, what is that movie about? And with the Statue of Liberty's head all tipped over, surrounded by the skyscrapers.
Which is not in the movie.
No.
At all.
But it's like, and I knew what the Statue of Liberty was, and I'm like, how does that happen? And it's like, it doesn't actually happen, but it's so evocative. And maybe seeing a trailer here and there on a video cassette, but I think it was probably when you told me to watch it and gave me the video that I actually watched it, and it's one of those times where you hope that a film from the 80s when you were a kid that you didn't see when you were a kid, you hope that when you watch it as an adult it still resonates, because you have a lot of stuff that you love as a kid that you kind of watch now that you can't stand,
like the Goonies.
I was just going to say like the Goonies.
I was just going to fucking say yeah, we call that the Goonies stack. These kids fucking screaming for 90 minutes. Jesus Christ.
I know. Oh, it's dreadful. But thankfully, because of its cynicism and its darkness and its kind of its cool factor, It's timeless. I mean, even though it's very 80s, it's set in like a futuristic world. So like it is kind of a time capsule for the 80s, but it doesn't really date either in a weird way. It's just, its ideas and its themes don't date. So and of course the style of it is so good, so delicious, I was going to say.
It's just so fucking cool. And cool is hard to do because you like there have been so many pastiches and tributes and straight up rip-offs. Like fucking, what is it? Lockup, the one with Guy
which actually
Pearce
they litigated, right? And they had to admit
John
it.
Carpenter sued a motherfucker. And they're trying too hard. And somehow Escape from New York just fucking nails it. It's like, oh no, this is cool. This is tough. This is cynical. It doesn't feel like a pose. And I think that's really hard to do.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And John Carpenter, he's talked a lot about how he was very much influenced by Howard Hawks and particularly the westerns that he made, like Rio Bravo, Assault and Precinct 13 is basically kind of Rio Bravo. And he got into filmmaking because he wanted to make westerns, but then he's never really made a straightforward western. And we can talk about Escape from New York having western elements. But yeah, there's also other genres involved, science fiction, action. What is Escape from New York we're speaking as a kind of a genre film. Do you see those western elements in the film?
Sometimes it's just down to casting, right? So when you've got Lee Van Cleef from the Dollars trilogy and you've got Ernest Borgnine from the Wild Bunch and they're just there, that's going to connote those Western vibes. Snake is very much a man with no name kind of character, you know, the terse, laconic, hard as nails, but with a sort of a hidden humanity thing going on that Clint did so well in the Dollars trilogy and many other films as well. Like, it's all pretty much there. You can kind of see some Native American influence on how the gang members within the city are kind of costumed. And there was a scene which they never shot, I don't think. So when Snake goes in, he has to land this glider on top of the World Trade Center. So that's instantly dated the film. And he has, like, originally he had to kind of make his way down through the World Trade Center and you'd see some stuff there. And he ran into a bunch of, like, Native American prisoners who were, like, cooking an animal and has to have a little tussle with them. So I think that reflects the fact that Carpenter was consciously trying to evoke Western tropes. Not in a really overt way, not like, say, Firefly, but in a more oblique way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think also we watched recently the Lee Van Cleef Western Death Rides a Horse, and I said, which is so fucking good, and Lee Van Cleef is the coolest motherfucker on the planet in that movie, and I said to Lindsay afterwards, he's kind of Snake Plissken-y in this film. Like, I think there's shade. I think casting Lee Van Cleef in Escape from New York, I might also be a link to that. Like, in that film, he closes a door by shooting it with a gun. I mean, it's this kind of these kind of things that I think transfer to Snake Plissken as well. And also the eye patch is like shades of like Rooster Coburn, and because Carpenter famously loved John Wayne. So I think there's those elements there as well.
But I think he is doing more Clint Eastwood than John Wayne. Yeah. Obviously, he does John Wayne a bit more in Big Trouble in Little China. But yeah, definitely the man with no name, because I'm thinking about A Fistful of Dollars, because in that it's all about someone playing sides against each other, and someone, you know, the man who stands alone, he doesn't have affinities with either side. I mean, the only reason why Snake Plissken is doing what he's doing is trying to get the president is because they've put bombs in his neck or whatever it is. So that's the only kind of, it is complete kind of self-survival that's motivating him. But I think also this film, so it's 2 years after Mad Max, but the original Mad Max isn't overtly kind of a dystopian future. It's more The Road Warrior, or Mad Max 2, which comes out the same year. So I think in terms of like the idea of a dystopia, I think there's something about the film that's can become very influential on kind of dystopian films, because I guess the 70s dystopian films are just kind of bleak, whereas this one is like much, like you say, cool, but also fun as well.
I mean, it's all like, it's just cartoonish enough to make it fun without becoming self-parodic. which you can argue that LA becomes kind of self-parodic and too on the nose. But, I love it anyway. I don't give a shit. But it kind of comes out of the dirty old New York of the 70s, right? Like Carpenter said that he wrote the script in the mid-70s as a reaction to the Watergate scandal because he was so disgusted by that. Damn, we need a remake of this movie like ASAP, don't we? 100%. He goes in, but the president's a pedo, so he shoots him in the head. That'd be lets the bombs go, so it's worth it. But in terms of like New York as a dystopian city, like he was influenced by Death Wish, which said he didn't like, but he really liked how like New York felt like a jungle, like a really dangerous like environment, like the city was the villain. And, famously, you have that time in the 70s when New York got no funding, right? What was the headline? Like, President and City dropped dead?
Yeah.
Remember the famous one where, like, and New York was, like, on the verge of collapse. Like, it was turned into this fucking, like, Gotham City, no man's land kind of situation, right? So all that kind of goes into the hopper. Mad Max, the original 79 Mad Max, actually died a death in the US when it was released there. Didn't do well at all. It's only like The Road Warrior, Mad Max 2, where they're like, oh, fucking hell, this is amazing. Because, Americans are dumb, you've got to spoon feed them a bit. But in terms of the depiction of an urban dystopia in science fiction, the only other one which is even comparably influential is Blade Runner. And I would argue that because Blade Runner is kind of more obviously designed, right? Like that is a very arty kind of film. It's very deliberately put together, whereas Escape from New York is a kind of scrappy low budget film. So they shot the thing in St. Louis because, half the fucking city had burned down a couple of years ago so they could save on production design. And Joe Alves, who built the shark in Jaws, he's the production designer, right? I think it becomes a bigger influence on film simply because what it depicts is more attainable. And of course, it's a direct influence on like cyberpunk as a genre entire because William Gibson saw the movie and you get the bit where Hal says like, you flew the Goldfire over Leningrad, and Gibson was just like, that's how you build a world without having to over-explain everything. I think I answered your question. I tend to rant.
Yeah.
Late at night and hot as balls here.
So yeah, the film has this very, very kind of high concept premise. Manhattan's turned into a maximum security prison. But I think what's one thing that I've found with watching a lot of Carpenter films is that he doesn't, like you just said, he just sketches in the details. Like the film opens and Snake Plissken has been caught. So you see him, he's arriving in handcuffs, and you just have throughout the film, everyone knows who Snake Plissken is. And they always keep saying, like, why do they all think that he's dead? And as you kind of think about it, you have the opening scroll, which happens a lot in dystopian films where you have the opening kind of voiceover explaining it's the near future and this is the deal.
I a collection on YouTube. I started collecting opening scrolls from Cyberpunk, and I've just started putting them together on that. Oh, it was a couple of years ago. I should start doing that again.
You know that basically Manhattan's been turned into a high security prison. I mean, I do sometimes have questions like, well, what happened to everyone who was in New York? And how does this all work? I mean, in my mind, I kind of feel like maybe they just were like, okay, we're going to turn Manhattan into a high security prison. And they must have probably just told everyone, you've got to get out of here. And if you stay, then you're a part of this. Because part of me thinks about like someone like Cabby. It's like, is he some hardened criminal?
No, he just stuck around. I think it's like we're seeing this in the American and Israeli attacks on Iran and other countries, where they basically send a warning going like, you got 24 hours to get the fuck out, and then the shells start coming down. I imagine it's something like that, where they basically went, it's going to be a prison. We get the last ferry leaves on Friday, and if you're not on it, bad luck, motherfucker. But they kind of build more of the world in the novelization, which I haven't read, but I've read about because it's expensive as balls, and I can't afford $200 for a paperback. But part of it is there were nerve gas attacks, and it's a nerve gas which sends people a bit crazy. So that's why you have the crazies in the sewers, the guys who are like chuds. But they also kind of imply that it's broadly affecting like everyone in the United States to some degree or another. So that's why you get a lot of sort of heightened behaviors, I guess you might call it. And what seems, from the little that we see of what's outside the frame of the film, or what we sort of get told about, this sort of violent culture, which now is, we just call that America, right? But at the time, you the sense that like everything's gone a little Wild West. Everyone's a bit hair triggered. Everyone's kind of carrying a gun. Like outlaws are heroes. You know, it's a bit like the Public Enemy era back in the 1930s when you had like Pretty Boy Floyd and Bonnie and Clyde running around. But it does kind of posit this world where the government is broadly mistrusted and overly authoritarian. And it makes sense that a guy like Snake Plissken would be famous.
My thought about the whole Manhattan becoming a prison thing, I thought it was like an extrapolation of what we were talking about before about the funding being pulled from the city. And it's like it becomes so bad that the island just becomes all criminals. Like they overrun like pretty much the whole island. And they just decide, we're just going to build the walls around it and just seal it off. And maybe they did tell people to escape, or they just left them there because there was enough white flight to Connecticut or whatever that they're just like, well, there's all that's left are all the scum now, so let's just build a wall and block them off and seal it off and send everyone else there.
but the other answer is like, it's just such a great high concept. It's like, what's the name? Escape from New York. What does that mean? New York's a maximum security prison. Plane crashed in there. Holy fuck, let me get my checkbook.
But then it's also obviously playing on this idea of New York at the time. So it comes out in 1981, which ends up being known as like the most violent year. And it was the most violent year in New York up until that point. I think I was looking it up, and I think the following year, 1982, then breaks the record for the amount of murders. But then it actually ends up reaching its peak in 1990 during the crack epidemic.
What about 2001? You know, I kind of thought that might
yeah.
Jazz the numbers a bit.
But it's this whole idea of New York seen as this really dangerous space. And I was also thinking about, because it's like a year or so ago, I did an intro to Abel Ferrara's Miss 45, which comes out the same year, 1981 as well.
I was going to watch that on Friday night, and I was like, it might be a bit bleak. I need something. I might watch Scrub. But I was hovering on the play button.
Because when I was looking into that, and like there were interviews with Abel Ferrara, and they were talking about when they were making that film that there were that they knew that there were certain areas of New York where, you know, they obviously couldn't film. And there was this whole thing of like, yeah, if you go down that street, you are 100% going to get mugged. Like there is no question that. So it's this whole idea that there was that New York was seen as this very dangerous place. But yeah, we have the fact that it's the near future of 1997. I mean, for me, it just seems like there's a lot of maybe, is it playing on these fears and anxieties about New York? You know, there has been, you know, some criticism of Carpenter's films like this and like Assault on Precinct 13, this whole idea about these fear about like these roving gangs. And, you know, maybe there's some almost reactionary ideas here about, you know, these urban spaces.
Yeah, I think those are fair criticisms, but I also think that Carpenter's work, particularly at that time, the 70s and 80s, is a fair reaction rather than being reactionary, if that makes sense. Like, I see Death Wish as reactionary, and Vigilante, William Lustig's Vigilante, that's kind of reactionary. The Exterminator, Escape from New York, and Assault on Precinct 13, not so much, because it does a couple of interesting things. All like a lot of Carpenter's films do this, but they make the villain the hero, or they make a villain the hero. Napoleon Solo in Precinct 13 is a great example. That motherfucker is going with a chair. Like he's a bad man, and you're on his side. He never racializes the villains, even though you've got the Duke of New York there, but all his dudes are multiracial, right? And same with Precinct 13. I was gonna say he's not a pacifist and he doesn't believe in social programs, but then you see They Live, where the community, like the specific community which is being threatened, is basically a homeless encampment. And it's all about, have you got tools? We could use your help. We've got to fix the toilet block. Oh, you can get food over there. Oh, we're getting a garden. He's, as I said earlier, his politics are contradictory, but I don't think he others people. I think that is not something that his work does. He doesn't talk about, there's no yellow peril, no like hordes of black people rising up out of the ghettos to rape white women. That's not his thing at all. So I can see where those criticisms are coming from, but I kind of push back against them.
I think what you say about his politics being contradictory is completely correct. Yeah. I think he generally is progressive. Yeah, he's generally a progressive guy, but then he also, I think he sometimes even says like, oh, I'm not making political statements or whatever. I mean, he's just very straightforward, but I think you can't help but start to question these aspects of the films as well.
Absolutely. But sometimes it's just, that would make a good movie. You know what I mean? Well, he's operating at that level. He's like, that'd be cool.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's never done something to be cool, which has wound up offensive or problematic, I don't think. Or nothing too offensive or too problematic. You can pick a few elements here and there, but he's not, he's not S. Craig Zala.
No,
not at all. There's this prison ecosystem. It's almost like a satire on society itself, but there's gangs, there's hierarchy, it's a world unto itself, and you've got the Duke of New York sort of seemingly at the head of that. Is this Carpenter's politics again about saying kind of about society would inevitably rebuild itself? Are we always destined to build some kind of a society, even if we are like almost literally an island of misfit toys?
You were dying to use that Island Misfit Toys line.
I just came up with it, actually, to be fair.
Oh, wow. I was saying
it.
Down. You'll never do better.
No, never. I'm glad it's recorded.
I think so. And I think it's interesting. I just rewatched the last couple of seasons of Deadwood last week, which is,
like meaning to rewatch that.
You really do. It's fucking great.
Yeah.
But that is like about building a society, building a community, dealing with the threat of outsiders who are, building a coalition, which is something much on my mind lately in our current grim moment in history, and how ostensibly horrible and people who are in, you would think, direct opposition with each other can come together to take on a greater threat. You see that in a lot of post-apocalyptic cinema and literature. I mentioned in the group chat last night, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, because you've got Barktown, which is a civilization. It's a horrible, brutal, barbaric civilization, but it's there. And I think you're on the money there. I think he is talking about that to some small degree. And part of that, I think, is because, once again, I strongly think his strongest through line is like, that'd be cool. And it just sort of gives Snake an interesting landscape to navigate, because if you don't have something there, some variation in the threats that he has to overcome and the people that he meets, it kind of becomes bland. So if you're going to sort of mix things up for him, a structure is implied, even if it's not explicitly stated. And the structure implies some kind of civilization, some kind of society, some kind of order.
Talking about not how he doesn't other people and things like that. I see the community as this like I see Duke of New York as like he's the immovable object that this unstoppable force that Snake Plissken has to come up against, because he just needs to, his whole idea in this film, his whole motivation is just to not have his head be blown off his shoulders, right? He's got no skin in the game and he has to take down the Duke in order to complete his goal. They don't have really any personal gripe with each other. And the Duke's plan is to use the president to get them out of the prison. And in another filmmaker's hands, I think that would be seen as like, oh no, these prisoners are going to be set loose on society. What's going to happen to the world once this criminality like runs rampant? But in the film, you get this impression that no, they deserve their freedom. Like, this is cruel and unusual punishment that's being inflicted on them. I actually want them to get out. I feel like that it's almost like that this unjust government has just built this wall around them, and all they want is to get out of this hellhole that's been imposed on them.
And it's just funny that I think one of the first things that he comes across when he's in New York is he goes into the theater, and that's where he meets Cabby. And so they're putting on entertainment. And then later on, you've obviously got their sports where Snake Plissken's have his like a bat fight with with that guy. Yeah, so it's this whole idea that they still have like a desire for entertainment, and they're still going to have theatrical troupes and put on shows for each other. And it's quite funny when watching it this time, like the people performing on stage, like they're doing a song, and the song is all about where they are. And they're kind of singing this jolly song about, oh, we're all in hell. And yeah, I just always love Cabby's face. He's having such a good time with this show.
Watching last night, he looks like Jean Reno looks when he's watching the musical in Leon, the Professional. You know, that complete fucking innocent joy. Cabby's a fascinating character. He's an innocent, right? Like he's obviously insane, but benignly. And also there's an implied economy there. So like Cabby's still a cab driver. Someone's paying him.
Yeah.
You know, the show's on. Someone's paying for admission. There's things going on, but it never feels a need to explicate it. It never feels that it has to pin things down. You just get that sense, and that sense is enough. And I think more filmmakers could learn a lesson from that.
Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, there's something, and I think it came up in the group chat last night. I mean, there is one of the things about this society is there are some grim implications, I think, for women in this society. So I think when he goes into that theater, he then, I think, goes down into the basement, and I think Cabby says, you don't want to go down there. And there's these two guys with this woman who seems kind of almost unconscious. And the thing is that Snake sees it and he does absolutely nothing about it. So again, we don't have a great hero here at all. He just walks by it. And then later on, he's got the scene in, what is it called? Chock full of nuts, where he meets Susan Hubley.
Hubley or Hubley? Hubley. Who was Kurt Russell's wife at the time.
Oh, really?
Whose wife?
Who's Kurt Russell's wife at the time? Oh, okay. Because I know she was also in Hardcore, and she was also the lead in Vice Squad, which is very, very good. That scene with her, I mean, it seems kind of inconsequential, but it's interesting in that she's there, and obviously, like everyone, she knows who Snake is, and she obviously sees him as like, this is my ticket out of here. And so then she kisses him, I guess, obviously to like, take me with you. And then people come in. But there's also, you know, only a few female characters in the film. And then you've obviously got Maggie, played by Adrienne Barbeau.
John Carpenter's wife at the time.
Yes, yeah. But I think there's one line where Cabby says that the Duke gave Maggie to Brain, played by Harry Dean Stanton, kind of to keep him happy. So even though Maggie she has, you know, some, it seems like she has some agency in the film and she knows how to look after herself. But this whole idea that she was almost like a gift given. So there's implications there of like, for women in this society, they're kind of property.
Well, all the dancers in the stage show are like big beardy guys in drag, right? So they don't have enough women for a chorus line, which is a bit grim for Broadway. Yeah, like and they don't really say anything explicitly, but it's pretty obvious that women are commodified within the prison of New York. Maggie, Adrienne Barbeau's character, is really interesting because she loves Brain. Like, she sacrifices herself after he dies at the end. Like, she didn't have to stand there and keep blazing away at the Duke's car. Like, that's a deliberate choice. So it's a really thorny kind of relationship, which is kind of hard to pick apart. Like, at any point, she could have shopped him to the Duke for what you would assume would be great benefit to her. and she never does.
Can we could also just talk about Kurt Russell? So this, like you said before, this is the role that kind of sets him on the track of being this kind of tough guy. And he, goes from being the Disney kid to this action hero. How or why do Kurt Russell and John Carpenter go so well together?
Well, first of all, can we say it's one of the greatest actor-director pairings of all time, and I would fucking give my left dick for them to make one more movie together. Like, holy, wouldn't that be fantastic? Fuck knows. Here's the thing, because I grew up at the dawn of the VHS age in Australia, I saw those Kurt Russell Disney films on VHS, man, when I was real little, when I was like 6 or 7. So I saw The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes and The Barefoot Executive and The Strongest Man in the World. And then I sort of escaped from New York, and I didn't make the connection till years later that it was the same fucking guy. Like, the difference between teen heartthrob Kurt Russell and Snake Plissken Kurt Russell is like light years. I don't fucking know what Carpo saw in Kurt to go, you're Snake Plissken. I don't get it, because he just never gives that vibe before that movie. He simply does not. That's not a slam on Kurt, who I really like as an actor. It's just not there. So it's kind of lightning in a bottle. Carpenter saw something that no one else did. The stubble and the eye patch, you're doing a lot of heavy lifting. Let's face facts. If you look at Kurt as Snake in the first film, he's kind of still got a little puppy fat around the jaw. And if he was clean shaven, you wouldn't buy it for a second. Like, not a second. But yeah, it's a mystery for the ages, isn't it? What do you guys think?
I think there might be a clue in, we were watching a kind of a little doco yesterday about Carpenter and his films, and they were talking about how he cast his mate and frequent collaborator down the line, Nick Castle, as the Shape in Halloween.
I mean, Nick Castle, screenwriter of Escape from New York.
Yes, and he was saying in the interview that he's like, everyone thought that I was the nicest guy, or someone else was saying it's about him, that he was the nicest guy, but John Carpenter was never truly convinced, and he always thought that his friend had a dark side to him. So it was kind of a bit of a joke on his part to cast him as the Shape in Halloween, because everyone loved Nick Castle and thought he was really fun and the nicest guy in the world. So I think maybe maybe he never fully trusts the nice guys, and he always thinks that there's a hint of darkness in them that he can draw out.
He's a smart boy, that Carpo. Funny thing, I did just remember, instead of Miss 45, what I did wind up watching the other night, and this is embarrassing, but I watched Sleepless in Seattle.
Okay.
Which Nick Castle was originally going to direct, I found out.
Oh, really? Weird.
Oh, okay.
It all comes back to Carpenter.
Yeah. Probably what Carpenter saw in Kurt Russell, like, I can imagine they probably talked about films that they liked, and that Kurt Russell probably shared the love of the Westerns and those actors. And so maybe Carpenter just thought he's going to understand who this character is, because it does seem like with a lot, not so much in The Thing, but with a lot of the roles that Kurt Russell takes for Carpenter, is there always seems to be this referencing. Like we've mentioned that with Snake, it's very kind of Clint Eastwood. In Big Trouble in Little China, there's the obvious John Wayne drawl that he has. So maybe it's just that they had this shared love and they shared reference points. So then it was like, well, yeah, I can work with this.
Yeah, and Kurt had worked with some of those guys too. So, like, there's a TV series Kurt did, the name of when he was a child star, where he co-starred with Charles Bronson. Famously, he got Bronson a birthday present on set, and Bronson was really touched because, like, no one ever gets him a birthday present. And I think he did a Rawhide episode with Clint, so you've got that connection as well. So it's not just about sort of liking the films, but it's also like knowing the guys that they're drawing on. Did he ever work with Wayne? I'm not 100% on that.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But let's just talk about, so Snake Plissken, why is he such an iconic character, and why is he such a John Carpenterian character?
He's kind of the ultimate Carpenter hero, isn't he?
I mean, obviously, Snake is motivated by the fact that he's got these bombs in his neck, and that your uncle kept saying to you he's a bad guy. Does Snake have any kind of moral code?
It's a really good question, isn't it? I think so. So Russell has rather famously said that the only thing that Snake cares about is surviving the next 30 seconds, right? Or minute or whatever. And that's the only thing that motivates him. But I think in his behavior we see something else. I think he's got contradictions within himself in that his survival is paramount, but it's not that he cares about people, but he kind of hates a bully. I think he hates unearned authority or unjustified authority. I think that's the big kind of stick in his craw. And that kind of motivates him. Like, you do see him take self-sacrificing actions to protect people, but only up to a point. So, like, we were talking about when Maggie dies on the 69th Street Bridge at the end of Escape from New York. And before she starts firing at the Duke's car, he's like, Maggie, he's dead, come on. And he stops there for a second. He's holding out his hand and he's like, we can get out of here. He could be off and running already. When she makes the choice, he just kind of goes, that's what you're going to do. And he's out. But that moment, I think, is really important. And you kind of see little bits like that recur where he makes offers to people, offers protection to people or escape to people, but he doesn't necessarily have to. And he tries to pay off on those promises and never fucking succeeds. But he does try. So there's a morality there. But I think it's in direct conflict with a very, very strong survival drive. And that is kind of paramount for him.
I think if he's in a situation where he needs someone's help to get out, and he says, well, if you help me, I'll help you get out, or I'll do this for you, he means he'll fulfill that. He's like, because he seems like the kind of guy who's like, if anyone's word is going to mean anything in this world, it's going to be mine, because I've had promises broken to me over and over and over again. I have to mean what I say and say what I mean.
Yeah. He's the guy who's been betrayed by the government, by the military, by Brain.
And so, yeah, I think he's like, I will fulfill that promise to you. But yeah, and that's why he's like, come on, I can help you in this. But then she sacrifices herself. So I think he does keep his promises.
He's obviously against, these corrupt politicians, but even he doesn't really seem to have, any kind of affinity for like these more idealistic revolutionaries as well. Like, he's against authority, but he also seems to be against any of the alternatives as well. Like, he really is the man who kind of stands alone. And also, he also seems like he's almost kind of invincible. Like, he almost seems to be a superhero. Like I think about in Escape from LA, where he wins that basketball competition. Like, it seems like there is nothing that Snake cannot master.
He can also surf real well.
Yes, exactly. He seems to be, he's good at everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really an LA thing. Like in Escape from New York, he's way more vulnerable and not human or capable of anything he turns his hand to. But in LA, he's bulletproof, right? He's Superman in an eye patch, the bad attitude. But yeah, that's interesting. He also, why don't we talk about his attitude to civilian casualties? Because it's a loosey-goosey. Because at the end of New York, he destroys the tape, which has a secret for nuclear fission, and is going to end World War III. And he's like, yeah, you know what? Fuck you. Let's have World War III keep going for a bit, you assholes. And at the end of LA, he uses the satellite program, with the code 666, like doing EMP faults on the entire fucking planet, knocking out all electronics everywhere. It's a fucking shame if you had a pacemaker. But fuck you. Got my American Spirit cigarettes. And I wonder, like, is that callous? Or is it for the greater good? How does he see it? Does he even see it? Do you think Snake is a long-term planner, or is he just a guy who reacts in the moment?
Yeah, I think he does. Well, I always think, I mean, we can skip to talking about the end, but the whole thing about when he destroys the tape, just before that, he sees the president. And I think he just says to the president, how do you feel about all the people that died for you? And the president just goes, oh, I appreciate their sacrifice. I'm on TV in 2.5 minutes. And it almost feels like the president's answer to that question is like, yeah, all right, nah. You're not getting this. You're not getting to be the one who saves everyone.
Yeah, it's not, you didn't earn your unearned valor, right?
Yeah, and can we just say it's so fucking funny when he hits play on the tape?
Yeah.
And the music from Cabby's car just starts piping out. You see the look on Donald Pleasance's face, like, oh my God, so fucking good.
Because I mean, and they set that all up when he takes the tape out and puts the one in for the nuclear tape in. So you know that at that point you go, oh, he kept the tape. Like it all comes back around, which is great. And I think that his final decision is kind of like his need to fuck the president over outweighs every other consideration at that point, because he's just like, yeah, fuck this guy.
And I can relate. I've done a lot of damage to myself just to make sure an asshole knew they were an asshole over the years. So,
Yeah.
Because we were watching something about Escape from New York last night. And in that, someone was talking about the Duke of New York. And they referred to him as like the main villain. And I kind of feel like he's not the villain. Maybe the president, I guess, is the villain. But then the whole thing is the president throughout the film, most of the film, the Duke is, I guess, humiliating him, making him say you're a number one, shoots at him. I don't even think we have a villain in the film. I guess they're all villains. But how do you see the Duke of New York and his, I guess, role in it all?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, when we were talking earlier about Escape from New York being kind of a Western, but not really, but it's got tropes in there and shit. A lot of my favorite Westerns are about people who wind up in opposition and it inevitably ends in violence, who aren't necessarily that different, and not the classic, we're not so different, you and I, none of that bullshit. But it's just like people wind up on a different side of a conflict, and what's going to happen is going to happen. And I kind of see the Duke of New York in that way. Like, he's a horrible motherfucker, don't get me wrong. You see him do and empower people to do horrible, horrible shit. But look where he is. How else do you function in a place like that,
And the only way you would get power in that place would be to take it and to be really ruthless.
Yeah, you got to be the baddest motherfucker in the valley. So
that's why you get Isaac Hayes.
100%. What an incredible choice. What a great performance. And you can definitely posit scenarios where the Duke and Snake would wind up on the same side of the conflict, but it's not this conflict. And also, we never know where the Duke came from. We never know his background. We don't know how he wound up in New York. We don't know how his power base got established. And that's all cool and groovy, because like Carpenter's very good at just giving you the cliff notes, and that's enough to go with. But I don't see him as the main villain. I don't see the president as the main villain. I think maybe society's to blame.
I think the Duke of New York, I guess you could say he's the antagonist. He's the one who's stopping Snake from getting what he needs to survive.
You should have just talked to Snake, because Snake would have been, you want to get out of here? So yeah, all right, let's go.
The men will do anything to avoid if they just had a conversation with each other, if they just sat down and and talked it out rationally. Which leads me to masculinity being front and center in this film. Is Carpenter kind of critiquing 80s masculinity, or kind of in the 80s, when you think about 80s cinema, this is the era of Schwarzenegger, Stallone, the big, muscly, tough guy action hero, very, I guess you could say, very kind of reactionary figures. Is there some critique here, or is this what defines what's to come in the 80s?
There is no critique here. There is no critique whatsoever. This is what Carpenter digs. This is what Carpenter admires in men. This kind of drive, this professionalism, this complete unwillingness to be stopped or checked in any way, this unwillingness to be controlled. Like, that's what he loves. I don't think he's being sly about this. I don't think he's dissembling. I think he's just like, Snake Plissken's my guy. Like, end of. I don't think it's that deep. I think he's just like, that's what I like.
But then it's also kind of, there is some fun with it. I mean, the fact that when takes his shirt off at one point, he literally has a big tattoo of a snake coming out of his pants.
Yeah.
Like,
and you got to wonder how low that tattoo goes.
Yeah. Like, there is almost some fun being poked at it all as well, I think, or just the cartooniness.
100% serious.
And all this talk of masculinity, I think we should just sort of like take a moment here to put some respect on Deborah Hill's name, because she is obviously the producer.
Yeah.
And when we talk about John Carpenter, we can't not mention her contribution to his work, especially in the early stages of his career.
100%. I wouldn't go so far as to say he'd be nothing without Deborah Hill, but like, Jesus Christ, she is such an integral part of his early career. One of the great indie producers of that period, and really tough by everything I've read. Like, a real take no shit kind of woman. But like, she's a Howard Hawks woman, basically. She's like a tough Howard Hawks broad by everything I've read about her, which I'm sure appealed to Carpenter in no small degree.
For sure.
And I think you also mentioned before about Carpenter's, respect for professionalism, the fact that they still kept working together even after, he must have met Adrienne Barbeau in 1978 because she was in Someone's Watching Me. And then they continue working together because one of the things we were watching last night, they were talking about how they made The Fog in 1980. And by that point, Adrienne Barbeau and John Carpenter were married, and Deborah Hill was still working, and her and Jamie Lee Curtis both say, yeah, that was tough, that was difficult, and I was like, but they kept working together for quite a while afterwards. I think they just knew, like, we work together really well, why mess with this?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to imagine, isn't it? Because like, I probably couldn't function under those circumstances, and I don't know many people who could.
Yeah, especially when the new wife is in these films. In
the fucking movie.
And Deborah Hill was saying she was writing the character.
Lead.
Yeah, she was writing Adrienne Barbeau's character in The Fog, saying it's one of the strongest female characters ever in a horror film, and she's writing all these lines for her ex-husband's new wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then on the second draft, Carpenter has to go through and take out all the lines where Barbeau's character's like, I'm a complete slut. I huff my own thoughts, So you got to get a polish. It's very complicated working dynamic.
How can we wrap up here with Escape from New York? What are do we have any final thoughts? Anything we haven't covered?
Let's talk about its influence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much responsible for like half of cyberpunk as a genre. It's been quasi-remade countless times. They keep talking about doing a remake. The last I checked, Lee Whannell was doing a script, but that was a few years ago. I think it's back on the shelf. I don't think we're going to get a remake anytime soon, because we are no longer in a reality where risking your life to rescue the president makes any kind of sense. It's just a towering achievement, isn't it? Like, it is for a little film, and it is a little film, it casts such a fucking long shadow. And I really love that. I love the fact, and because it casts a long shadow, you can introduce it to people and they'll fucking get it. Like, I don't think I've ever showed that film to someone and had them just bounce off them. You know? It's just so fucking good. I love it so much. Like, I watched it again last night and I was just wrapped. I didn't check my phone or look away from the screen. It just works so fucking well. Like, it's a masterpiece.
It's got such a such a low budget that I was saying this to Lindsay, it's all character and vibes. Like it creates this atmosphere. And I wanted to mention Dean Cundy's cinematography is like those blues and reds, and like there's that great shot where he's just walking down the street and all these the green street lights go off like seemingly forever. And there's the big car that's tipped over on the side. And it's just such a beautiful shot. And it's just those sort of things. I can see how that imbues the kind of cyberpunk aesthetic and how people return to that well over and over, because that look is just so iconic and so attached to that. It's kind of maybe even launches the modern idea of a dystopian world. Especially,
dystopian city in particular.
Yes, dystopian city, which I think, you're right about Blade Runner being very designed, and Escape from New York's very designed, but in a completely different way. And I think it captures the imagination in a different way because, it's those little details that let you fill in all the gaps, and it brings you to it. And Pliskin's such an iconic character, and I think that we see that. Hit that character return again in films. And I think the thing I thought was Hideo Kojima's Metal Gear Solid video game series, like the name is Solid Snake. He has an eye patch. Like, you don't get these things without Escape from New York.
100%.
Has there ever been an actual Escape from New York video game?
There may have been one.
They were gonna do one, and I think there was a playable demo that leaked. This is like 20 odd years ago, I think. They should be. Yeah, you can just play Arkham City, which is like Batman does Escape from New York. So I was in my win, motherfucker. I was in heaven.
Yeah, that's true.
Its influence is just in everything. It's like even not just straight remakes or retellings, but it just goes so far into so many different things. I'm also thinking, what was the Neil Marshall? Was it Doomsday?
Oh yeah, Doomsday. Yeah,
that's totally. Doesn't Rona Mitra's character? She has an eye patch.
She's got a little cyber eye, and it's under an eye patch, and she has to do some gladiatorial combat at some point. And it's all about going into like an abandoned feral zone at Scotland, which is pretty much an abandoned feral zone anyway. So. No, I'm kidding.
Hi to all our Scotland listeners.
Hello, Hadrian's Wall. And here's the thing, like I really enjoyed Doomsday, but Doomsday is like pastiche. Right? It's like drawn on a bunch of different stuff, but it really wears its influences on its sleeve. And you know that film can't exist without sort of these earlier films existing. But Escape from New York, in its weird way, is kind of sui generis. It is it is the thing of itself. It is just a perfect little cultural object, which I might watch it again tonight, actually. Like, I just can't get bored with it. It's so fucking good.
So I think that's a good place to wrap it up. I mean, so how can we top that? Is we talk about
the Thing.
Yeah, the Thing.
The Thing.
The Thing.
All right, let's get into that.
First goddamn week of winter.
Mayday. Anyone hear me? This is U.S. Station 31. You read me? Found something in the ice. We need some help down here. Can anybody hear me? We found something. We found something. We found something.
12 men have just discovered something. For 100,000 years, it was buried in the snow and ice. Now it has found a place to live. Inside. Where no one can see it, or hear it, or feel it.
I know I'm human. Some of you are still human. This thing doesn't want to show itself. It wants to hide inside an imitation. It'll fight if it has to, but it's vulnerable out in the open. If it takes us over, then it has no more enemies. Nobody left to kill it. And then it's won.
You guys gonna listen to Gary? He can beat one of those things!
The Thing is set in Antarctica at an American research facility known as Outpost 31. We begin, though, with some unidentified men in a helicopter who are firing down at a dog running through the snow. The dog runs to Outpost 31, and the men working there find it. The helicopter lands and a man shouts in Norwegian and shoots one of the American men, Meddings. And so in retaliation, one of the other men, Gary, shoots the Norwegian and they take in the dog. So pilot R.J. McCready and the doctor, Dr. Copper, go to the Norwegian facility to investigate. They find it in a ruined state. It's all burnt out and all the men are dead. They also find some very odd remains that looks like a body with these two fused heads. They take the body back to Outpost 31 and the biologist Blair, played by Wilford Brimley, who I read, apparently he was only like 47 in that film.
That's so a rough 47.
Oh, God. Yeah. Anyway, Blair does an autopsy, and despite it having this strange head, inside are normal human internal organs. The dog is taken into the kennels. The other dogs bark in terror and are soon absorbed by the Norwegian dog, who is revealed to be an alien creature. The men witness the transformation of the dogs and destroy the thing with a flamethrower.
Or do they?
Yes, yes. So another autopsy now reveals that the thing takes over its victim and then replicates it. Excavation back at the Norwegian site uncovers a buried alien spacecraft. And Blair starts to unravel when he realizes that the thing could take over all of Earth in just a matter of years. His erratic behavior leads him to being confined in a nearby shed. And so the thing begins to slowly take over the men one by one. No one knows if they've been assimilated, and everyone grows increasingly paranoid and distrustful. After several shocking instances where the thing reveals itself through these transformations, McCready realizes that each cell of the thing is its own organism and devises a blood test to see who is now a thing. And yes, we'll go into that blood testing scene in more detail. They go to test Blair, but things go haywire even further. Blair has escaped. Other members of the group disappear and then return. It becomes unclear who is still human. McCready believes the thing wants to go back into hibernation, so he decides the only thing they can do is destroy the camp. There is a giant thing that attacks and is blown up, and we end with only McCready and Child, played by Keith David. They're the only ones that remain. But who knows if the thing is still out there, or even if McCready and Childs are still human. We are left to ponder as the two men share some J&B whiskey and wait to see what happens.
Dong dong.
All right. So, as with most of these John Carpenter films, I don't remember when I first saw this film. Travis, do you remember how you found this film?
No, I do not. I do remember watching it on the front veranda of a share house on acid.
Oh, God.
Liam, you were there. But I don't remember the first time I saw the thing. I do know it's my favorite horror film of all time. The Exorcist is the greatest horror film of all time. I think that's unarguable. But this is my favorite. I can watch it again and again and again. It is a perfect organism. It is so fucking tight. It is so spectacular. It is so well written. It is so atmospheric. It's got a great cast of motherfuckers you've never heard of. And a few guys, yeah. It's just incredible. It just ticks a lot of boxes for me. There's just something about it. Hard to articulate. It's got all those Carpenterian concerns that we talked about. I think it's his best film. Like, I honestly think it's his, as we said earlier, it's his masterpiece. No one loved it at the time. But you have to remember, it was released before catalog catalytic converters were widespread, so there was a lot of lead. So people were kind of a bit fucked up. So they didn't appreciate it at the time. But man, what a movie. What a fucking movie. I watched it again quite recently. It was playing at a cinema nearby, and me and Alex, the third amigo, big shout out to our friend Alex Hardison.
Hey, Alex.
And
He's not listening to this.
he will. I'll make it. I'll give him a wet willy until he promises. But it's just perfect, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It really is.
I have a problem as a critic talking about films that I really love because I hate needless superlatives and I hate gushing reviews. So when I'm talking about a movie like this and trying to kind of put a sort of metaphorical star rating on it, it's actually really tough because I could talk for days about how great it is and it would just sound fanboy bullshit. But like, holy fuck, what a movie. What a movie. Like, guaranteed good time, got a lot under the hood, fantastic effects, gory as shit, great cast, excellent action, incredible. What a movie.
Do you remember it all, Liam?
Again, I think it was probably Travis.
It was thrown at you by Travis.
Yeah. And it was kind of that, like, I don't know which one came first, Escape or this, but it was one of those things kind of like, you think you say you love movies, well, you need to watch this. Like, you can't say you're a film fan without watching this film. And it's kind of like, it's one of the gateway films, I think, for anyone who's getting into horror or into just films in general and sci-fi, you want to watch the best and you want to watch the best films. Like, this is in the pantheon. I think. And
we had an amazing screening that I can't remember the first time I saw it, but I do remember when we went to the US, we had the huge epic trip across America in 2012 and we stopped in Austin and I really wanted to go to Austin. And the main reason I wanted to go to Austin was to go to the Alamo Drafthouse. And they were having a summer of 82 season. And we got to see The Thing at the Alamo Drafthouse.
On its 30th anniversary, because it came out the year I was born. So I'm the same age as that movie. And it was I turned 30 and it was the 30th anniversary of the film. And we saw it at the cinema in Austin. Yeah, it was amazing.
Well, I'm now going to remember how old you are, Liam. So that goes in the win column.
All right. It's well known that this film was considered critical commercial failure on its initial release in the summer of 1982. Most people know about this, but Trav, just quickly take us through what happened when this film first came out.
Look, all I know is if my mother had taken me to see The Thing instead of E.T. after The Dark Crystal, I'd be far more well-adjusted than I am today. It's one of those things that baffles me. It's up against E.T., right? And E.T. was the biggest movie of 1982, and it's a beautiful film. That is one of my favorite films. I don't do any of that top 10 bullshit. I can't keep like a ranked list that just does my head in. But E.T. is one of the greatest movies of all time. It's a very different film to The Thing, and people just weren't up for it. But what I find weird, looking back at old reviews, is that even genre critics, people who are into horror and sci-fi, were just like, fuck this movie, it's too bleak. Maybe it was simply too bleak. Don't forget, so 82, Reagan gets elected in 80, it's Day in America, a speech which was directly quoted by Carpenter in They Live. People wanted hope. People wanted to win. People wanted to think they were on top. People wanted America, and the American market was way more important then than it is now. They wanted America to be the shining light on the hill, and The Thing comes out and goes like, fuck that. And it comes like, it's a year after Escape from New York, but Escape from New York is kind of riding on that late 70s cynicism, and it kind of gets the last wave of that. And just 12 months roughly later, The Thing comes out, and America wants none of that shit. So I honestly think it's just bad timing. But history has proved that it's one of the greatest fucking movies ever made. So
And I was reading somewhere it opens the same day as Blade Runner.
Yeah. Fuck, that would have been a good day.
Yeah, but that doesn't fare so well at that time either.
Yeah, people did not want bleakness. They did not want cynicism. They did not want pessimism. They did not want dystopia.
Compromised characters, because I mean, you've got Deckard. I was just thinking before, like Deckard and Snake Plissken are kind of similar, like not heroes and not even anti-heroes. They're just horrible people. I think Deckard's really awful.
Deckard only kills 2 people in that movie, and they're both women.
One in the back.
I just want to say that we watched this doc last night that I was talking about Carpenter, and it's from the 90s or something, and Mark Kermode's in it, and he goes, imagine making the thing and you've just finished it and you're editing it and you're watching it before anybody else sees it and you just go, oh my God, what have I made? This is incredible. Every element of it has worked. Everything I set out to do has worked. Everyone's going to be, they have their minds blown. It comes out and no one wants a piece of it. And he's like, I would quit right there and then. Yeah. He says, I just quit directing. Like you've made it, you've done exactly what you set out to do. It's this masterpiece, and everyone just goes, nah. Yeah. He said, how do you continue on after that?
Yeah, you'd walk into the fucking ocean, right? Like,
yeah,
how do you keep on? You take a year off and you make Starman.
Yeah.
He did make Christine.
Yeah.
As well.
Shit, I forgot Christine. Yeah. Sorry.
He even says that Starman is his apology for the thing. He kind of said, and he got fired off Firestarter.
Yeah, after the thing.
Because the thing did so badly. So it was really detrimental to his career. And so he's quite straight about, I had to do Starman as penance, although it's still really good.
Starman's great.
I love Starman, and I understand why Carpenter doesn't, because it is the movie he had to do as opposed to the movie he really wanted to do. I mean, you can posit a universe where everyone reacted to the thing appropriately, and Carpenter just went on to bigger and bigger things. But it was his biggest movie at the time, and I think it's still his biggest movie in terms of budget, in terms of the resources he was able to muster. He never got that again, and kind of sucks. Like, he's great on a tight budget, but fuck, man, I'd love to see him with, like, all the money he needs to do whatever the fuck he wants. Not going to happen, but, like, oh, man.
Yeah. Have you read the original short story, Who Goes There, by John W. Campbell?
Yeah. So, John W. Campbell, pretty right-wing reactionary dude. But it is a straightforward, golden age sci-fi, smart, capable scientists and men of action come up against a problem, which is the thing, and find a way to fix it. All the elements are there, in the shape-shifting and all that, taking people over, but they find a solution at the end, and it's not scary, okay? It's written in that fairly dry style, which is common to sort of golden age sci-fi. But when you read it, and of course, we can only read it from the point of view of people who have seen the thing, you can see how you would be inspired to do the thing out of Who Goes There. Like, the pieces are there, but the tone isn't. And I think the tone is so important to the film. And that's Carpenter.
The first film adaptation of Who Goes There is released as The Thing from Another World in 1951. So the credit for the director goes to Christian Nyby.
No, he fucking didn't. You know who directed that?
Yeah, and it's produced by Howard Hawks, and I believe Nyby was Hawks's editor, and then I guess he's given a chance to direct. But you watch The Thing from Another World, and it's very Hawksian. You've got a band of mostly men, and then one woman, the Hawksian woman, amongst it all. The men band together. So the arrival of the thing, it kind of brings them together. And of course, The Thing from Another World also is grouped together with all the 50s alien invasion films that are considered to be these very kind of quite overt metaphors for Cold War tensions. So Thing from Another World ends with Watch the Skies. And you have, they defeat the thing at the end of The Thing from Another World. American might is right. In that film, the military, this kind of military and scientists, and the military are the good guys, and the scientists seem quite sinister in that film.
At least naive. Like, they don't understand the threat that they're facing. And it's the military guys who like have the right stuff to sort it out. So they electrocute the thing. We should point out there's no shape shifting in that one. It is just it's a vegetable that drinks blood, played by James Arness from Gunsmoke.
Yeah.
Okay.
And apparently they were having a real hard time getting the makeup to look the way they wanted. And apparently Hawks came in and just said, just make him look like Frankenstein, and then walked out.
And he does. Yeah, it does. The intellectual carrot, I think they refer to it as well.
Yes. Yep. That's the famous line.
So the original story you say is kind of a classic of this golden age of science fiction. The 50s film is, I guess, the alien invasion films of the 50s. They're kind of horror and sci-fi.
Yeah, very much. There's a lot of atomic paranoia in there, like nuclear paranoia, communist paranoia, of course. And it's, it's one of the leading lights there. Like, you've got Invaders from Mars, you've got, what's the big one? Klaatu Barada Nikto.
Day the Earth Stood Still, which is the same year, 51. I've had to teach alien invasion films from the 50s many times. So a lot of the scholarship around the films is that The Day the Earth Stood Still is this more, usually seen as this more kind of liberal view of, or progressive, in that the alien is not this foreign other to be feared. And then with the other one, something like The Thing from Another World, where it's just this kind of foreign outside force standing in for communist threat and so on. And it's interesting because The Thing in 1982, the Cold War is still going on, but I don't feel any of kind of referencing to the Cold War. It seems like it becomes something completely different.
You get a bit of geopolitics in there because you get that great line where T.K. Carter, who we just lost quite recently, sadly, comes in on these roller skates and is like, maybe we're at war with Norway. Just a great bit. But the Thing is cosmic horror, right? The Thing is Lovecraft, which is something which recurs at least a few times in Carpenter's work, because, explicitly in The Mouth of Madness, and of course Prince of Darkness is kind of occupying the same territory. And those are kind of more explicit, whereas this is kind of low key because, like, it is an alien invasion story, but it's a genuine alien. It is something which, like, it's not a metaphor for anything because, like, it doesn't give a fuck about anything we do. Like, in the face of that threat, our little divisions and rivalries and whatnot are, like, they're nothing. So I find that really interesting. It's almost as though Carpenter is, through that lens, willfully rejecting the Cold War framing of the original.
Because I think it's just confronting us with, like, we just don't know anything about the universe, and we are so tiny and insignificant. All of our petty stuff, it means nothing. And yet it is this much larger, apocalyptic just dread. We're confronted with, we don't know anything about the universe. The universe is infinitely unknowable. We're being confronted with that. And what do? You can't do anything.
And that's why I get annoyed with people who try and nitpick the film. So you get questions like, oh, was it like the pilot of the spaceship in the ice? Or was it like something which took it? Doesn't matter, man. Like, you're not supposed to know. You're not supposed to know. Like, it is unknowable. How long was it down there? Like, say, like 110,000
They say
years.
100,000 years, but yeah, I always feel like it's possible. It could be even more than that. I mean, can our science even measure any of this?
I was taking a look at a new Netflix doco series the other day called The Dinosaurs. And that gets in a deep time, because the dinosaurs were around for 170 million years. And it kind of talks about how, well, it doesn't talk about it, it implies that, like, that's a span of time that we can't even get our fucking heads around it. But the reason I bring it up is because it's narrated by Morgan Freeman, and you get to hear Morgan Freeman use the term thagomizer for the tail of a stegosaur, and that's the best thing I've heard this week. And they don't say it's from a Far Side cartoon. It's like, it's got a deadly weapon called a thagomizer. Like, completely deadpan. And I fell off the fucking couch.
I mean, just in terms of genre, most of what we look at on the podcast is kind of both horror and science fiction. Do we want to nitpick? I mean, is The Thing more horror, more sci-fi? Or how is it dealing with these genre elements?
I think it's the leading example of the genre hybrid which you guys have kind of staked a claim to, right? Like it's The Thing and Alien. Those are the two leading lights of like sci-fi horror. And I think trying to figure out how much of it lands on either side of that genre line is kind of a mug's game. I don't think it's too important. I think you can just sort of go like this, like for you guys in particular, this is exactly what we're talking about. You know, like it's an example of your area of inquiry. It's perfect.
And I guess the whole thing, like often the divide between horror and sci-fi is that sci-fi, it's an external threat, and horror is all about an internal threat. And the whole thing of that, the thing is like, yeah, it's both of that. And it's externalized, but it's also it's an internal thing, because there's all these questions of like, do you even know if you are the thing?
I remember once I got into an argument with some dude, and he got really fucking salty at me online, where all the best arguments happen. But I kind of posited the idea of like, if you're the thing, do you not know you're the thing? If it makes a perfect replica of you, which is like inherent in the text of the film, right? Like it replaces you cell by cell. And once it replaces those cells, there doesn't seem to be any alien material there, right? Am I reading that right?
Well, yeah, when Blair does the autopsy at the beginning, he says there's no completely normal internal organs. Human. Perfect. He says perfectly human.
Yeah. So if it takes you over completely, but it's kind of running within you as kind of a subroutine, you could be walking around, I think, not knowing you're the thing, but you are the thing. And this dude rejected that out of hand, like it was abhorrent to his, like I got sworn at badly for what I thought was just like a conversation about a fucking movie. And I've gotten salty at people over movie opinions before, but I thought that was a bit out of pocket. But yeah, I would say, like for me, like just as I read the film, like you can totally not know you're the thing when you're the thing.
But do you think it might take over and you'd kind of black out while it's doing its, if it's doing its, to say, for want of another word, thing? I mean, like, because Blair, like at the end, is building a spaceship, but then if Blair is just like building a spaceship, not knowing why he's doing it?
I imagine it can like step up, like take control, but
and you kind of black out.
It's within you like a kind of psychic barrier. Yeah, that's kind of my take. But like once again, and I think Lindsay nailed it. It's the unknowability, which is like the hook. That's what's fascinating. I think trying to solve the film is not
it's
not the right choice to make. But let's do it anyway, because we got.
No, it's those mysteries that why you keep coming back to the film, because you want to kind of engage with that, even though you don't want it to be solved. You want to kind of get in there and swim around in it anyway.
Yeah, it's like is Deckard a replicant? It's like, well, no, the question's more important than the answer. Okay, like they had a whole fucking sequel and they still didn't answer it. So like, don't worry about it. It's clearly not important. That whole fucking prequel to The Thing. Remember that thing?
We watched it last night. I'd never seen it before.
It's so boring.
It's so boring and pointless. It's okay. It's okay.
The longer I draw out that second syllable, the more ambivalent I am. It's okay.
We should talk about the fact that this film is set in Antarctica. Why is it set in Antarctica? What is the significance of it being set here?
Well, it's the last wilderness, right? Like it's the last, really, particularly at that point. You know, we're talking like 45 years ago now. Jesus Christ.
How old are you?
44. Not that old.
But it's sort of the last wilderness. It's it's unknown. It's unknowable. There's a great Lovecraftian connection there. With Atoms of Madness, and Antarctica kind of feels old, and it is old, right? But the way the ice layers there kind of gives connection to like earlier epochs that we are not wont of. It's international territory, more or less. So even though it's an American base, it's not an American story. Yeah, that's kind of my take. And, it's just such a bleak location. And they shot it up in what, Nova Scotia? I think, on a glacier up there.
I thought it was actually, it's not Alaska. No, it must be. I can't remember where it is. Yeah, it was set. It was filmed somewhere.
But yeah,
It's West Nova.
I'm pretty sure it's Nova Scotia.
And
Okay.
it's that isolation factor of like already they're kind of struggling against the elements, and then this thing is introduced, and it's that whole thing of like if the radio breaks and the helicopter is destroyed, you can't just walk down to the post office and send a telegram. It's like you're fucked. So it's like that extra element of like, it's like I always talk about the film The Descent, right? It's already scary when they're down in the cave, like this sucks, and then the chuds show up, and it's like, oh fuck no. So it's like it's that it's that whole element of just like this is already like horrible. and now they've got to fight this alien that can mimic you, and if you don't survive, it's going to take over the world. Like these are the highest of possible stakes.
And also, and this kind of relates to Escape from New York as well, because they're down in Antarctica, everyone's kind of a little fucked in the head already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, these guys are all, like, they don't kind of like each other. They're kind of getting on each other's nerves. Everyone's down there for some kind of weird reason. Like, nobody's normal. None of these guys, like, the closest you get to normal is it Norris, the guy who, has the heart attack?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the most normal fucking guy there, right? And he gets about 3 lines of dialogue.
And one of those lines is when they ask him to step up to be the leader, and he's like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Fuck no, Phil.
It kind of, you speak about Alien, like it reminds me of the crew of Alien. It's kind of that whole, these kind of just workaday Joes almost, even though some of them are scientists and stuff, but a lot of them are like support crew. And they kind of remind me of like the Harry Dean Stanton and Yaphet Kotto characters, but like they're all they're all them, these just like guys who are just trying to make it a go of it in these horrible circumstances, getting high, watching the same game shows over and over and over again. Yeah, and just getting on each other's nerves all the time.
Because, you got a bunch of scientists there. You don't really have a strong military presence. You've got the commander, El Capitan, who gets to use his pop gun. You got a couple of helicopter pilots. They're both fucked in the head. You've got the cook. You've got the dog handler. And you've got this kind of mix of, like, scientists who are doing, like, you've got fucking Windows, the radio guy. But they're all kind of off. They're all just a bit, there's a reason you're down here, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason you're not fit for polite society.
You don't take a job in Antarctica if your life is going great.
Funnily enough, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Like, it's
cheerfully withdrawn.
No, it's one of those things I've thought about. It's like, would you winter over in Antarctica? And I'm like an instant yes, because it's one of those things that most people never get to do.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I would like to see what it's like. And not because, like, I got no other options, because, there's plenty of work out there for a guy who can fake his own death. But it's an experience that very few people get to have. And I would be really interested in doing that. But every so often I check the Australian Antarctic program, like the job listings, and there's nothing for a film critic.
Oh.
You're missing out, man.
Film critic in residence.
We're on the projector when they show the thing before the last plane leaves.
I was reading somewhere, and I can't remember if this is actually correct, but I think in The Thing from Another World, they're in the North Pole, and that in the thing, they're in the South Pole, and there's something about it being the South Pole and like almost like the antithesis, and it is kind of the end of the world, the bottom of the world. There's something about just the symbolic nature of Antarctica.
Yeah, 100%. Like, that's a good point. It is the end of the world. It's like it's the last frontier. It's the last place you go. It's for a lot of those characters, it feels like it's their last chance, right?
Yeah,
like
sure.
It does feel like a bunch of dudes who are like at the end of the earth and at the end of their tether, and that's really interesting. And then suddenly, an alien.
The first scene of the film, I mean, you have this really unsettling scene of them shooting at this beautiful dog.
Played by Jed the Wolf Dog, who co-starred with Pat Oswalt's wife in The Journey of Natty Gann. And I'm pretty sure that's where he married her.
The dog is part wolf, right? There's this whole thing. It doesn't bark, so there is something off about either the dog from the beginning. But I don't think there's just something about how I keep going back to John Carpenter saying this is a film with no hope, and so just you do not get any kind of comfort, or do you say respite or respite?
Either or.
I usually say that word, but you don't get any of that.
Let's go respite.
You don't get any of that in this film, like from the get-go.
I looked it up. It's respite.
Oh, sure.
Now you can trust me.
And so I like, as I was watching the film again, and I was just thinking about, I just cannot imagine what it must have been like to have seen this film for the first time in 1982.
By the time we saw it, right, it had a reputation. You had an idea of what you're going into. I can imagine in the summer of 1982, Northern Summer, I believe it came out, just, going to go see a new sci-fi horror movie and coming out going like, I should take up heroin. You know, like it's bleak as shit. And we know that. Now it's got a reputation, so it does lose a certain amount of impact. But that impact on initial viewing may have been to its detriment financially and critically. Because like it's not even like a punch to the face. It's just like the cast of Amontillado, right? It's like getting bricked in. It's just so fucking bleak. And it does start that way. Like any hope you bring to it is just your preconceptions of how movies work. So it's like, oh, here's the dog and these guys got blown up, but the dog's okay. And it's like, now we're meeting these characters and it's like, oh, yeah, they're doing this and that. And then pretty much straight away, it's just like horror, paranoia, horror. The world's going to end. Everybody's dead except for these guys. Roll credits. Holy shit.
And I think that the fact that there is no women in the film, I think that's the other thing about no hope is that it's a whole thing is that when there are more men in a society, they usually do kind of descend into violence when there's a lack of women. And it was a very deliberate choice that Carpenter was making to just have this be a bunch of men in the most kind of isolated place on the planet.
Yeah, and I think it works wonderfully and horribly. And also, you know, like the thing is, it's not quite a rape metaphor in the way that Alien's a rape metaphor, but it is about reproduction. And like in the society we're presented with, in the community, and as we've said, Carpo is all about his communities. There is no hope for that community to grow. It's just not. It's just not there, you know? So I think thematically that ties in quite neatly and powerfully.
And I think also the whole thing, like a lot has been written about Alien and about the, I guess, almost a gendering of the alien. And you can say with The Thing, it is reproducing. And, you know, and you've got all these like vagina dentata kind of things happening, especially, you know, with the defibrillator and the hands going in and getting chopped off. But yet to me, it kind of feels like what we keep going back to about it just being, I think it's beyond gender. I think the thing, it doesn't seem like there is the gendering like that you get with Alien. It is just something beyond that. It's just something, again, unknowable.
I mean, closest analogy would be like, it's like a disease. It's like a fungus. It's like a virus or a bacteria, maybe, you know, where it's like biological, but it's not gendered the way that we are as mammals. It is unknowable. Like its origin is never known. It's the mystery of whether it was the pilot of the ship or whether it was a specimen on the ship or whatever. It's like you never understand that. The film presents, like, it's so smart because it presents this mystery, but the narrative around it is so fucking tight that it allows the mystery to exist on fair terms. Like, one thing which is amazing about The Thing is, like, it doesn't lie to you. It might fool you, and it might misdirect you, but it's this beautiful, rigid narrative structure which allows all these things to play around. Like, it's a perfect movie.
I guess it's something, it just sketches in just enough that that it all works, and you still have the mysteries, and it's this whole thing of you're never going to solve the mystery, and why would you want to? And we've talked about, this place, it's just men. We have Kurt Russell again, and we have McCready, who is ostensibly the lead or the hero. But then it opens with the chess scene where he's playing with the computer and he destroys the computer. So it's almost like he's already paranoid about the computer because he calls it a cheating bitch. And of course, it's calling it a bitch. To me, it just seems like, well, yeah, you're working through some issues here, pal. So we have Kurt Russell again as McCready. What do you make of him? Because he is supposedly, I guess you could say, our lead hero character.
Yeah, he is, and he kind of emerges as the hero gradually. Carpenter kind of, because we get that scene with the computer, which is like funny as shit, but like that already kind of puts a circle around him as the hero. And I believe that earlier Carpenter didn't want to cast him, but wanted to cast someone else. But like circumstances, I think it was financing, meant that they needed someone, and Kurt's kind of a name now, mainly because of Escape from New York. So like, boom, perfect. Which I think is even though I said it's a perfect film, I think that's a little bit of a mistake. Like maybe with an actual unknown or someone on the level like the rest of the cast who, you kind of know those guys, some of them like Richard Mazur and TK Carter and whatnot, but they're not faces. And I think having a dude in McCready's role who isn't a face the way that Russell's a face might have improved what is, as I already said, a perfect film. How do you improve on perfection? Apparently you get rid of Kurt Russell. But no, he's great because he is like, there's a different type of cynicism to McCready than you see in Pliskin. Like Pliskin's kind of more harsh and brutal and kind of mean, and McCready's kind of broken. Like I've read that Russell kind of put together like a bit of a backstory for McCready, and he was like a helicopter pilot in Vietnam, and he saw some shit, and it kind of fucked him up for life, and that's why he's in the shack outside of the main camp, and that's why he's drinking all the fucking time, and that's why he's wearing that goddamn sombrero, because like he doesn't give a shit, because like he is just down there to like mark his days, like he wants nothing, like survival isn't important to him. That's probably why he makes the choice at the end. We should probably just blow the camp up and all die, right? Because like, who gives a shit? Yeah, really interesting character. Anti-heroic more than Pliskin, I would say, in that he is barely a protagonist because he's a guy who doesn't want anything. To be a protagonist, you got to want something. What the fuck does McCready want? He wants to get drunk in his shack.
And I just think the first scene of him is losing, and he's losing to a non-human, and he reacts in a very human way of, well, I'll just pour my drink in there. And
it's not the first time he's done it, because he fucking throws the chess computer away, and there's a pile of chess computers that they've clearly sent down to keep these guys fucking sane, and he's like, fucking another one.
Well, I was going to say that his destruction of the chess computer, yeah, like you said, that scene shows him as being ostensibly the hero of the film, because I think his answer to a problem is just to destroy the computer. Like when and it's like, I think that shows that he thinks kind of outside the box instead of just like turning it off and leaving. He'll fucking destroy it. Like that gives you a lot of insight into his character, and it also shows you that he's willing to go scorched earth.
Yeah, 100%.
When he's facing a losing game, he will fucking just destroy it. His destruction of the camp at the end, it's like, let's just fucking destroy it. Like that's the foreshadowing there, right?
And he's like, I'm okay with losing, but you don't get to win.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
All right, so this is a film, one of the few examples where Carpenter doesn't write the script. It's written by Bill Lancaster. And he doesn't do the score. We talked a bit about that. It's Ennio Morricone doing the score. Given that you were both screenwriters. What are your thoughts
failed
on
screenwriters? But yeah, go on.
What are your thoughts on the script, Burt Lancaster's son?
I've read that screenplay. It is pretty much what you see on screen, and it's just tight as a drum. Like, it is just beautiful. It's perfect. It's a perfect organism. I love a script that doesn't cheat, and most scripts cheat, and the scripts for great movies cheat. Jurassic Park is a great fucking movie. There is no goddamn way the Tyrannosaur got inside the building to take out the Velociraptor at the end. That's just fucking impossible. Like, that's a cheat, right? That's still a great movie. This script does not cheat. I just love how rigid and logical it is, and it allows all the paranoia and the fear and the horror to play out within these very strictly defined sort of guardrails without explaining anything apart from what is needed to make the story happen. It is, in terms of characterization, it's just what the actors bring to those roles. Okay? Because really, all those, as written, all those characters are pretty functional. You know, they have the little peccadillos and shit and whatnot, but like they're basically, it's that whole Carpenter thing, right? You are your job. So we have the cook, we have the geologist, we have the helicopter pilot, yada yada yada. So it's an incredibly well cast film, but the script is like, it's just fucking tight as a drum. And the draft that I read is pretty fucking like 99.9% close to what you see on the screen.
And I think Carpenter said that they had, like he said, we had the longest lead time I ever had on a movie, which is like a year or something. So obviously they had that time to really refine it. And it needs that refinement because there are so many characters, and they all, they're all their function, and the actors bring what they bring the personality to it. But every character has their moments, or you can track each of them. I sometimes forget the names of the characters. Like there's Fuchs, who I always go, who's that guy again? And then it's like, oh, Fuchs is the guy who gets, and so it's like, but they all get their death, and it's all kind of meaningful to the story. And it's kind of almost like, because it's who's who and who's done what. It can seem labyrinthine in a way because there's so many of them. But by the end, you're like, you can track every one of the characters' deaths, even if they're off screen. And I think that's really important, that we invest in these people and kind of are aware of what happens to them, and that their deaths have, even though maybe not meaning because there's no hope in this film, but that they at least narratively, it all contributes to that that sense of mystery and that suspense.
Yeah, I'm with you. And those little character grace notes that you get, which make these people seem human and real to us, they're not heavy-handed. You know, you're not introduced to a character like doing a bit. Like the closest you get to that is when you get TK Carter on his roller skates. But that's just cool and groovy. But you never get like, he's the goofy guy and he's the grump, and it's like just nice and organic and naturalistic. And I think that really helps with all the horror that comes after that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And also there is actually a bit of humor in there too. Like I love the bit where I can't remember his name, but the guy who's just like, chariots of the gods, man. Palmer. And like that's their explanation for like an alien.
South America.
Yeah, and that's a joke, but that's also just like, and that's why the alien is 100,000 years old. Anyway, over here, like that joke is actually the explanation for, yes, there's this alien frozen in ice, and he's just like, yeah, chariots of the gods. And it's like, and then we move on, and it's like, that's so fucking great, because it's like, it's Carpenter again going, we all we need is this sliver of information. That's all you need. Fill in the rest. We're off to the next thing. And it's a fucking great moment.
My favorite funny line is like, "Can you turn that down? I got shot today."
And then he goes to reach to turn it down, and he doesn't, and just skates off. I love that. He's just like, "Fuck you." And also the bit after the blood test scene where Gary's like, "I don't care what the rest of you are doing this winter, but I would not like to spend it tied to this fucking couch." After so much death and destruction has happened.
It's like, it's when he's his facade of professionalism finally fucking cracks.
We talked a lot about the humans, but shall we start talking about the Thing and the eruptions? So our first big scene with the Thing is in the kennel. I mean, how do you even begin to explain what it's like to watch that scene for the first time? So the first emotions of the Thing, it's with these dogs. So it's so awful. It's almost worse that it's dogs than humans. Mm-hmm. But I guess it's almost like it's working up to humans. But I mean, let's just talk about that scene.
You kind of expect a slow build to a big reveal, right? Because this is how this shit works, like Alien, right? Even after the chest burster, because it's a slow film, face hugger, da-da-da, chest burster, da-da-da, big fucking alien, right? The Thing doesn't do that. The Thing goes, here's a dog, by the way, yeah. Like, holy shit. So, the tentacles come out, the fur starts getting stripped away. That fucking flower that comes out kind of got a tongue thing. That flower's made out of dog tongues, which are like rimmed with dog teeth. And then, like, Jesus Christ, like how do you describe it? Like, it's incredible. So this is the work of course, the great Rob Bottin, who's off the map now. No, I don't think anyone knows what happened to Rob. One of the greatest special effects artists of all time. Did The Thing, did RoboCop, Starship Troopers,
Howling.
The Howling, which he got handed by Rick Baker, the other legendary special effects artist, and seems to have retired from the industry completely. I don't think anyone knows where he is, which sucks. Rob, if you're out there, man, I'd love to talk to you. A lot of production sketches and development art by Mike Ploog, the incredible comics artist. And there's a couple other artists in there. Ploog's the one I really remember, though, because, fuck, what a legend.
I mean, Rob Bottin was 22. I just can't believe that when he did this. Not only is he only 22, and he has to come up with all of this stuff that's just never been done before and has to figure out how to do it, that there were also apparently all these union issues as well. So he was having to navigate that. And he was working 7 days a week for like a year, and he ends up being hospitalized by the end.
Yeah, because he was working like 18-hour days, 20-hour days, like sleeping at the studio and getting up and just working. And did he wind up with pneumonia? I think he wound up with
something,
pneumonia.
or just exhaustion. He just ended up in the hospital because of just dealing with it all.
And then the movie bombed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just injustice.
Okay, here's a question. Is The Thing the greatest movie monster of all time? Or is that a cheat because The Thing is so malleable?
That's a good question.
I think it's definitely up there because it can be anything. Because of the infinite possibilities.
Designs like the Alien, H.R. Giger. You got to look at the 31 Frankenstein. Like, fucking hard to go past that, right? Even Creature from the Black Lagoon, great design. The Thing, is a bunch of incredible designs, but the license that sort of shape-shifting ability gives you as a designer is kind of, well, if you were going to build a statue of The Thing, what would it look like?
You wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, it's kind of dicey. But ranked listings for assholes, so who cares?
But I think when we talk about the tightness of the script and everything, it's interesting how well written it is and constructed. But then these elements of when the Thing attacks, how unbridled the imagination is. So it's kind of there's this great structure to the story, but then when the Thing attacks, it's just pure chaos. And allowing Rob Bottin to just cook, probably literally a lot of that latex stuff. Like it's such a great, it's what brings this film into like alive, really. And I always love the way it to show the because they can't really show it morphing on screen because they don't have the technology. So what they do is they show an iteration of the monster and then they cut away to the reactions, and when they cut back, it's a completely different looking monster. And they do that I think, like 3 times in the dog scene.
Some bubbles or like a
and there's some stuff coming out
or something splitting open, but you don't get like a werewolf transformation scene. That
it's a great way to show that it's like transforming. It's almost cheating the visual without having to actually do some dodgy morphing stuff, which would have really cheapened the look of the film, I think.
Yeah, and the fact that it's all practical effects, that matters, man. Like that's got weight to it, and that's got artistry to it. And like I'm not bagging out CGI artists or anything like that. I'm just saying like I'm a man of a certain age and I got certain preferences. I like my prosthetics and I like my puppets. Now, if we're going to talk about great attack scenes by The Thing, the defib scene, the defibrillator, holy snapping dog shit. Can we talk about that?
I mean, what do we even say? I mean, it is, you got to be fucking kidding.
Yeah.
So for those of you playing at home who haven't watched The Thing, turn off the podcast and go and watch The Thing. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
But, so which character has a heart attack? It's the boring guy.
Norris.
Yeah, Norris.
Lindsay. So Norris has a heart attack, and we've got no idea that this guy may be infected. So Doc Copper gets out the defibrillator, puts on his chest, bam, clear, bam, clear, bam, clear, and suddenly Norris's chest opens up like a fucking mouth and bites Doc Copper's arms clean the fuck off. Now, what's great about that is that Carpenter cast a double amputee for that scene as a stand-in. Didn't bother to put a mask on him. And he was asked about that and said, aren't people going to know? And he's like, no one's going to be looking at your face. And he was right. And then things get really bugfuck nuts. Norris's head winds up detaching and growing spider legs and scuttling across the floor, leading to the classic line. Liam, say it one more time.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Cinema, children. That is what we
Absolute
call
cinema.
Cinema.
And I think that Rob Bottin was talking about how they actually had to they fucked the first take, and it was like a one-take deal. And also they were using all these flammable liquids, and they're like, we need to put flames on the bottom of the camera because they're setting things on fire while the head's being detached. So we need to know that things are on fire. And Rob Bottin's like, this is some really flammable shit that we're putting fire next to. And they had to they ended up having to reset and do it again. But like, it just would have been, and they had a guy under the table cranking.
Yeah, Charles Hallahan, who plays Norris, I think had to lie under a table for hours and hours.
Yeah. And there's all these guys on pulley systems, but it's just like it's that scene where it's like, I think you were saying, like when you come to the thing after you're not seeing it for the first time in 82, you're seeing it later. We're kind of coming to it knowing a bit about it. I think people who haven't seen the film shouldn't be listening to this bit because that's the bit in the film which takes you by surprise the most, I think, because it's like, who the fuck thinks that's everyone's seen a defib scene in a film. No one's seen one quite where the guy's stomach opens and eats him in the doctor's arms. I mean, it's so shocking that it's like you can't believe you're seeing it.
Yeah, to me, it's the signature scene of the film, right? Like, that's the one. Because you've got the entire cast there, you've got the thing going bugfuck nuts, the effects and the creature sort of effects are just next level. You've got the flamethrower there, very important. You know, the flamethrower factors in a lot. It's just... If you wouldn't show that scene to someone to go, this is why you should watch The Thing, because it's like showing the scene at the end of The Sixth Sense where Bruce Willis realizes he's dead to say, this is why you should watch The Sixth Sense. But it's just the greatest fucking scene in the film. Everything in the film is in that scene. It's an Eye of the Duck scene, as David Lynch likes to say. Put that in for you, Lindsay.
Oh, thank you.
I'm here to help.
It's funny, one of the last time watching the film, one of the things I noticed if you watch Windows in that scene, he is losing his mind. Like the actor playing him, I can't remember the name of the actor playing Windows, but he plays it so well.
He's doing interviews for the new doco, so I put my hand up. I'm talking to him soon with any luck.
Okay.
I'll ask him
Thomas
any
Waits?
any question you care to throw, I'll ask.
Because he honestly, he looks like he's losing it because he just like, he can't, like, it looks like his brain is not computing what is happening in front of him, which probably was what the actor was thinking going through at the time, just seeing what was playing out in front of him.
The scene where he just kind of slams himself into the corner and he's like freaking out.
Yeah. But he just, it's the look at his face like, I can't even process what is happening. Again, it's this whole thing of beyond the, I guess it is this whole thing of like everything we know about life, the body, the universe is being collapsed. And so just, what do you even do in that moment? Everything you know is just completely disintegrating in front of you.
This might be a way to watch the film another time, is to watch it again and watch, because there's so many actors in frame at any one time. Like every rewatch, pick another actor to just watch them in every scene as the things, and see what their reactions are, because there is a lot of interesting stuff going on the margins of all the scenes, I think.
It goes against all the, I guess, rules or this whole idea of what we think about what horror is and what is truly scary. This whole idea of that you should just suggest things and that our imagination fills in the blanks in ways that you can, that no film can ever capture. And this film goes against that. I was reading an interview with John Carpenter where he was talking about when he was with Valeria Golino on the set of Escape from LA. And she said something like, oh, you should never show the face of the devil because, what we think is it's scarier. And John Carpenter's response was, but if you could show the face of the devil, it would fucking terrify everybody. By being so graphic. He was called a pornographer of violence when the film came out.
All respect to Valeria Golino, another woman who hit on Snake Plissken just to get immediately murdered. Seems to be a pattern. He should make better choices. Sorry, I cut you off.
The fact that we are seeing things in such graphic detail, it kind of goes against where everything that we think about horror should be, I guess.
Yeah, but I think the thing kind of splits the difference, because you do get a lot of suggestive horror. You get the drip of liquid off the body after Copper's done the autopsy. You get the classic scene with the dog, where we're following the dog around the camp, and it walks into the room, and you can see the shadow of someone, but you don't know who it is. Who do you think it is? Does it matter?
No, it doesn't. I always thought it was Norris, but apparently it was played. Yeah, but apparently it was played by like a production assistant or something.
Yeah.
But I always thought it looked like Norris.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think. It's like, is that obviously is the first person who gets turned?
Yeah, unless it's Richard Mazur, Richard Mazur was never turned, remember?
No, yeah, McCready kills him.
McCready shoots him in the head.
So I kind of feel like, who's the first person to turn?
Well, in the story, the first one we see, it's Bennings, right? The guy gets shot, and they chase him out into the snow, and he's got the hands. Yeah, but it's that. So it could be him, but it doesn't. He's kind of bald. And the shadow has like hair. So I always thought it looked like Norris to me. So but does it matter?
Yeah. And there's also, there's the other thing of like when they find McCready's torn jacket and who tampers with the blood. Like there is. Yeah. Again, there are these mysteries, these questions
that are never solved.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about the blood is that like the thing is a shapeshifter. So it didn't need the key you can posit like a weird filament tentacle going in and just messing up the blood. So the whole question over like who had access to the blood is kind of a red herring to me.
Yeah, for sure.
The main, I guess, thrust of the film is that we are just for a lot of the film. I mean, what you have these scenes of the thing and these huge, transformations and things. But yeah, most of the film is just the breakdown and the paranoia that is building. So I guess it's all just related to the paranoia that we feel as the audience, is that we don't know what's going on.
Can be somewhat of like Carpenter, with his politics showing a bit of saying, society is like this lie agreed upon that we're all kind of getting together for some kind of common purpose. But once you start pulling at those threads, it's not too long until everything just collapses. It's kind of like the Joker in The Dark Knight, right? When
also you just referenced Deadwood.
Of course they did.
Accidentally. A lie agreed upon.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
That's a Deadwood thing. Yeah, but Lindsay's point about the paranoia is absolutely on point. Because if the defibrillator scene is sort of the signature scene of the film in terms of like spectacular effects and chaos and whatnot, the signature scene for the paranoia side of the film is when McCready is making his recording and he's like, no one trusts anybody anymore and we're all very tired. Like that. And the way that Carpo holds on that.
And he says nobody trusts anyone. And then he rewinds and he records over that.
Yeah.
Why does he do that?
Because he doesn't trust anyone.
Yeah.
And he's very tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's almost like he doesn't trust himself as well. I think that's another part of paranoia, which I guess we should go.
It leads into the blood test scene. Right?
Yes,
yeah.
Because one thing about the blood test scene is that as everyone's being tested, and you can see as they're testing their blood, and then if they're found to still be human, whoever it is goes, because it's like, I think in everyone's mind, it's like, it could be me. So everyone is just completely, they don't trust anyone else, but they don't trust themselves anymore. They don't even know who they are anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Terrifying.
That's an incredible scene. See, every scene we talk about, I'm like, oh, that's the signature scene of the film. Like, no, it's this one. No, it's that one. That's the most influential scene of the film, I'll tell you that, because that turns up over and over and over again. I mean, most famously recently, Sinners. Sinners does it straight up with the garlic, right? But I watched The Faculty recently, and they do it with the drugs when they make all the, they make you snort the drugs. And that is just amazing. I don't do merch anymore. I don't buy action figures and shit like that, but I've got a little triptych. So I've got the 12-inch Hot Toys Snake Plissken, which is hot as hell, and I've got a little 8-inch McCready, which comes with a little blood dish with a little explosion of blood sticking out. And I got a fucking Funko Pop Jack Burton. And they all kind of look as Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Sits on my writing desk.
That's cool.
You genuflect every morning in front of them.
Oh, you better believe it. And then I watch Tombstone.
The last watch of the thing and that blood test scene is when, who was it that is revealed to be the thing in that scene? I can't remember. It's not Palmer.
Oh, it's the other helicopter pilot. Yeah, Palmer. Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole thing of because there's all in that scene, there's 3 of the men tied to a chair because McCready makes, I think it's Childs, Gary, and someone else, maybe Palmer, who's tied to the chair. And the whole thing when Palmer reveals himself and is turning and the guys all tied on the chair and you can see them all and they're it's really quite funny.
Cut loose because after he passes, he's like, "Cut me loose, man! Cut me loose!"
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I just remember there's one scene where they're all tied on the chair and they're all just trying to move, and and it was very funny. this time
And
watching
it's
it.
kind of goofy because you get that scene where Palmer, after his head splits apart,
Yeah.
he wraps his head around Windows.
Yeah.
And Windows is kind of getting
Flailing
dragged around.
about.
His body's kind of out straight, and you can tell that's a dummy, but like,
it's so nuts
give a
though
shit
that it
about
doesn't
it.
matter. Yeah, it's just so insane. And I love the bit at the start though when I think he does. What's TK? Is it TK Carter?
It's Knowles.
The cook
It's
on the roller skates.
Knowles, yeah, Knowles. Then they do him. They do him first, and then it's that great cut to suddenly he's next to him with the flamethrower. Like, it's such a beautiful bit of editing because it's just showing you instead of just having a scene where he's untying him, it just cuts to him already like there as part of the test,
just
and they
a sharp cut, and he's like,
yeah. And it's like, and that's also kind of funny as well. It's actually a really funny. The whole scene is really, really funny up until it becomes just this absolute crazy splatterfest, and then it becomes funny again at the end with the punchline that we mentioned before with Gary. It's just beautifully constructed, and the sound of the hot wire going into the blood always makes me like wince.
Fuck, it's great. We should say, like, for a movie which, as Lindsay said, is like bereft of hope, funny as fuck.
Yeah, it really
it's a funny movie. Like, terrifying and horrifying and brilliant and tense and paranoid and depressing, but funny as fuck.
Absolutely.
That's the only thing you can do, I think, in the face of all of that.
That's what keeps me going, I'll tell you.
I mean, should we skip towards the ending? I mean, after the blood test scene, what happens next? I think after the blood test scene, they want to go and test Blair then, don't they?
Well, let's talk about Blair.
Yeah, because he's an interesting character.
His entire sort of thread, because he's fascinating for a 47-year-old man.
Yeah. I must be getting that wrong.
He was a former cowboy. Did you know that? Like, he was a cow wrangler. He was like a serious, tough son of a gun, and came to acting late in life. And this is 3 years before Cocoon?
Right, yeah.
Where he famously played a retiree, which means he was 50.
Okay, he was born in 34. 54, 64,
yeah, so he's like
74.
47, 40. He's 48 maybe when the movie comes out. Would have been 46, 47 when they were filming.
Jeez.
He lived a hard life.
You,
yeah.
44 this year, next month.
There you go, brother.
That's what I got to look forward to.
But he's the guy who figures shit out, right? And so he runs that simulation on his computer. And this is back when no one had the faintest fucking idea how computers worked. So you can type into your fucking Apple Mac to how long until the thing takes over the entire world? And it's like 10,000 days. You're like, shit, I better murder everyone.
Yeah.
So it's him, it's Blair who like wrecks the communications equipment, I think. And is running around with a fire axe. And his breakdown isn't because he's been taken over by the thing, but he recognizes the threat that the thing represents. And that's really interesting. That's very Lovecraftian, you know? He has smacked up against the unknowable and he's gone insane, but he's gone insane in a sane way because the choices he's making are the choices that McCready makes at the end of the film.
Yeah, just listen to him. But yeah, they lock him up in the cabin outside. And then when they go back to see him again, he's got the noose hanging there.
I know. Yeah.
And he's like, I want to come back inside. I'm all better now. This noose dangling behind him. But at some point he does get taken over. Because he's kind of...
and we don't know when.
Yeah, yeah. And there's another one of those unsolvable mysteries about when McCready's like, my light's on in my cabin, but I turned it off as well. And like, that's when he goes to investigate that. And that was what leads to him kind of getting locked outside and all this stuff.
Yeah, because Knowles cut him loose.
And Fuchs's body's found burned. Because that's when I remember who Fuchs was, because and it's about who burned the body, but they obviously had burned him to stop him from...
And someone says at some point, did he burn himself because he knew
he was the thing, yeah. So yeah, there's something going on outside which Blair obviously gets wrapped up in. And is he saying he wants to come back inside because he says, I hear weird noises out here. There's weird stuff going on. Is he scared? Again, is he scared or has he become the thing? And it's more of that unknowability.
The ambiguity is so important, but as I keep coming back to, it's the ambiguity within very, very strict guidelines. And like, that is such a great trick of writing. That's such great storytelling. I'm in awe. But of course, after Knowles cuts MacReady loose, you get MacReady coming back in, and Childs, the great Keith David, who we should talk about in a second, is like, I'm gonna kill that son of a bitch as soon as he comes in. And then you get MacReady with the flamethrower and the dynamite. Oh my God. I'm a real light sleeper, Childs.
So shall we talk about Keith David then?
Let's talk about Keith David.
Because we have MacReady, but we have Childs at the end as well.
So Childs is the head of security, I believe. That's his sort of job on the base. That's his function. And he is the foil to MacReady for most of the film. He's the guy who's always sort of pushing back, just saying like, this isn't the right choice, or maybe you fucked up. Most importantly, I think, in the blood test scene after MacReady shoots Richard Mazur's character, whose name escapes me, the dog tamer, Clark. And it is incontrovertible that Clark was human, right? I think that's one of the few facts we can kind of put a pin in. But then Childs kind of becomes an ally to MacReady, despite their opposition, which is kind of speaks to Carpenter's repeated theme of community building, right? The fact that these guys who are disparate, who are against each other, who frankly don't like each other, have to come together to solve, well, not really solve, but, deal with this problem.
Going back to what I said before about maybe there's a commentary here about when you start pulling on the threads of a society, it collapses really quickly. But then on the other side, and again, this is that contradictory nature of him, I suppose, is that you also see disparate people from varied backgrounds coming together in a crisis. When things go to shit, that can pull us together, and people who may have been on opposite sides can actually find common cause.
And it's funny, I was just looked up the final dialogue right at the end of the film. So it's Childs and MacReady, and Childs is the one who says, how will we make it? And MacReady's reply is, maybe we shouldn't. And so it's Childs who's like still trying to figure out, how are we going to get through this? And MacReady by this point is completely resigned. And he doesn't even think, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe humanity should be destroyed, or maybe this should be just the end of everything. So it's just interesting that towards the end, there does seem a slight difference. Maybe Childs has a little bit of hope. MacReady has none.
And Childs says that the fire brought the temperature up all over the camp, suggesting that maybe it's been seen by, I don't know, a satellite or by, a plane or something. So he's got that. Yeah, he's got that sliver of hope still, doesn't he?
Mm.
Yeah, maybe. But also you have, the telling question, where were you, Childs? Because we don't know. But we're not supposed to know. Like, I hate trying to solve movies. I think some movies need to be unsolvable, and this is my key example. The ambiguity is the point.
Which I will say about, like, I guess one of the things about the remake of The Thing, which is actually a prequel essentially, because it's about the Norwegian camp or whatever. And I mean, they don't come out to try and solve it either, do they? I mean, that's the risk of some of these sequels and recalls, is that they're like, Freddy Krueger. Well, here's his origin story, and it's like, fuck that. I don't want to know. You want that.
Well, we got it in the first fucking movie anyway, so who gives?
Well, yeah, but that was okay. Mike, the Rob Zombie Halloween. Let's stay on the John Carpenter thing about showing his home life and all this sort of stuff. It's like, no, I don't want to know about that. He's scary because I don't know. I don't want to, Prometheus. I don't want to know where the alien came from. It's scary because I don't know. And it's like, that film, The Thing is that writ large. It's like, that's what makes it what it is that mystery. And you don't want to know, ever.
Yeah, and Carpenter had talked about doing a sequel, and he had an idea about how, like, oh, it's all going to make sense because, like, McCready got frostbitten, so that's why he looks older. And it's like, no, leave it alone, man. Like, you're good. Like it sucks that no one appreciated it in 1982. It really does. And I think of a world where they did, and oh my God, John Carpenter's got an Oscar. Like, fucking, and he's made a Western.
Yeah, yeah.
And that'd be more important to him than the Oscar, I feel. But
won an Oscar for
this
a Western?
film is just, yeah, maybe. But this film is just so magnificent. Like, it is. I like a film which doesn't compromise on its principles. And this is a film which offers no comfort. And it's so good because of that. It's kind of a miracle, really.
Mm. And weirdly, I kind of feel like it is a comforting film to watch now. I could keep going back to it. Because it almost is comforting, like, oh, yeah, I'm in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing. This film is just so good. I'm going to get something new out of it. And so it weirdly becomes comforting.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll say this, every time I watch it, I get something new out of it. I'll notice a little detail. I'll notice a little thing, just a bit of business. And it's like, oh, wow, fuck that. And it's not mind blowing. It's just like, man, that's so fucking smart. That's so fucking good.
Mm-hmm. So the last time you saw it was at a cinema. Had you seen it in a cinema setting before?
Oh, God, yeah. Like, half a dozen times at least. I have seen it on the big screen so many fucking times. And it counts on the big screen because, like, that cinematography, Dean Cundy.
Yeah.
Is Cundy on this one yet?
Yep.
That soundtrack, big fucking bleak white landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. That opening scene alone. Dum, dum. Oh.
Yeah.
Mm.
And yeah, I just looked up. Yeah, the only Morricone's score did get a nomination, not at the Oscars, but at the Razzies. It was nominated for worst score.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Fuck those people.
America needs to die is the conclusion I've come to. Like, that's a society too sick to survive.
Well,
Worst score. Ennio Morricone for the fucking thing. Jesus Christ.
It didn't win, but it got a nomination. So it lost.
No, it won because it didn't get the award.
I don't know. But yeah, that's just ridiculous.
Ah, madness.
I mean, how do we end a conversation about this?
Maybe we shouldn't.
Why don't we just wait here for a little while, see what happens?
There it is. But what a magnificent film. John Carpenter, what a king. Married to a king, Sandy King. As I top this with my favorite director of all time, he's my guy. I hope he's your guy too, listeners. Like, Carpenter knows what it's about.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you say? What do you say to a guy like that?
I just hope he's happy right now. Getting stoned, playing video games.
High as balls, playing video games, and hopefully going to
or
a
jamming with his son.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just making a bit of music.
We love him. Travis, do you want to plug anything? Where can people find your work?
I am now the film and culture editor at Blunt Magazine, blunt.com.au, where I kind of get to write about mainly movies, bit of TV, bit of gaming, bit of music, bit of punk, bit of metal. Having a good time over there. That's more or less what I'm doing at the minute. Not too much else out there. Criticism as a profession is dying, children, so support your local film nerd.
So we just like to end with letting everyone know that we are on social media, that you can like and follow us there. Please rate and review our podcast. And we will be back for our next episode soon on David Cronenberg with our next guest, who will be the legendary comic book artist Stephen Bissett. All right.
Oh, wait.
We'll see you all soon.